What is going on, Ducks fans? It is one of your hosts, Nate Thomas. You're probably going, what happened to Carter? Um, he's just disappeared. No, I'm kidding. He's got just some prior commitments that he wasn't able to make today's episode. Gave me a week of advance notice, which is fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Carter. But you know what? I'm not alone. It's okay. You don't have to hear me go off on my own for about an hour or so and just talk about complete nonsense, because we have the one and only Annie OD joining us on the show today. Annie, how's it going?
Card, thank you so much for Nate. You're talking about Carter. I was like, wait, no, that's not you. Nate, thank you so much for having me. I'm so pumped to be here. Love your show. And we've gone back and forth on Twitter for so long. It feels like this is a collaboration is so long overdue.
Yeah, honestly, I'm glad that you were just excited to even come on the show, because you were the first person I reached out to, and after that I was gonna go like, crap, what am I gonna do about this actually? So like there were a couple other ideas I had in mind of who to bring on, but
You could have carried it yourself. What are you talking about?
It was a very short list, honestly, that was going to turn into, if I can't get somebody, then there's just not going to be a Monday episode this week. So, but yeah, so thank you very much for joining me. And don't worry as well, everybody. Carter will be back on Wednesday. And a reminder as well, that episode is going to be after the game versus the Washington Capitals. But it's okay, because you can join us before the game and during it, actually, on the THPN YouTube channel, as Carter and I will be hosting a watch party for the Anaheim Ducks versus the Washington Capitals, the second time they will play the Caps in 2 weeks. But before we get to that game, we can talk about the first one earlier this week on Thursday. We're going to talk about the game against the Carolina Hurricanes as well on Saturday. And there's a couple W's put on the board, to say the least. So let us get into it here. So it's a quick recap in case you forgot, because I don't know about for anybody else, and I don't know about for you, Annie. It's been a bit of a whirlwind of a week for me personally. But yeah, the Anaheim Ducks beating the Washington Capitals on Thursday 4-2, and then beating the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday 3-2, adding 2 more regulation wins, which is not something we are used to in Anaheim Ducks land this season.
Nope.
Yeah, adding 2 more regulation wins to the board. And yeah, and kind of doing some things as well to these teams. The Ducks handed the Washington Capitals their 6th loss in a row, which that also had lined up with the Capitals losing Alexander Ovechkin, and again his father passing, and we send our condolences there. This was Ovechkin's first game back. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to help get the puck past John Gibson in that game. And in terms of the Carolina game, the Ducks snapping the Hurricanes' 5-game winning streak and having back-to-back wins for the first time since their 3-game winning streak between January 24th and 28th before the All-Star game, where they beat the Arizona Coyotes, it was the Chicago Blackhawks, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Chicago? Oh, no, sorry, Colorado.
Yeah.
Arizona, Colorado, and then Arizona again. So the Ducks seem to like when they're playing teams a little bit closer together, it seems like, because, like I said, we're going to have Washington coming up here. So I want to talk about a couple different players in particular, and we'll talk a bit more overall, I think, and we can kind of pull things from different games. A big contributor for the Ducks this season returned in the game versus Carolina in Troy Terry, and against Washington first. But he scores a goal in both games as well, and is wearing the A on his chest as well in the absence of Adam Henrique. Terry got injured early in that first game back after the All-Star break, and this team has suffered offensively without Troy Terry. Annie, what did you see out of his return over these couple of games?
I think it really reaffirmed, and if you follow me on Twitter, this has been my campaign all season long, is that Troy Terry is the next Ducks captain. and he has my vote. If
Yeah.
I did have a vote, which I do not, but if I did, he would be my choice. There's no question. I would say aside from John Gibson, that Troy Terry has been the most valuable player on this Ducks team. And there's a reason why he was the representative at the All-Star game, even though he did not get to participate in the skills challenge, which is still, I don't care about All-Star games, but that struck a nerve with me. I was like,
yeah,
you're
it
going to
struck
let
one with me
everyone
too.
participate, but not let everyone participate? Like, no. But to just have him come back and already contribute. And, we saw it even last year with his absolute just outstanding breakout year, part of that playing on a line with Getzlaf and really kind of seemingly to even in this rough season as it has been, and this team trying to find identity and not having a captain, not having a named leader, and just giving the A's to the veterans in the group, which I understand that tactic, but really showing that, hey, Troy is really stepping up and being that guy and trying to make plays where they count, when they happen. So if when that does happen, and I guess that's another discussion point too, I could see next season possibly them finally saying, okay, we had a year, let's, we're moving forward. We have this core. We're going to ship out a lot of veteran guys, which I think will happen this week, come up on the trade deadline. So no, I think it was huge to have him back, and it really showed how important and valuable he is to this Ducks team. And that should absolutely go into some talks with him and Verbeek as they're working out a contract for him.
Yeah, the good old contracts for Troy Terry and Trevor Zegras coming up this offseason, and Jamie Drysdale. Or is Jamie next year? I can't remember.
No, I think they're all
yeah, I think they're all at the same time.
They're all this, and you just think back. I think Troy's making what, $1.7 million this year.
Let's take a look over on everybody's favorite website, Cap Friendly.
Cap Friendly.
Let us take a quick look. Yeah, 1.45 million is what he's making.
Such a steal. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, especially, like Terry's only 25, which I'm also 25, but then I go, man, I feel old some days. I mean, I don't know about you, but at 25, I'd love to be making just south of $1.5 million instead of being in how much student debt I'm in currently. So, but yeah, no, I do think as well, though, for Troy Terry, you can see that captaincy, like not just on the ice as well, but which is definitely a major aspect of it. But another aspect as well is just, his accountability and how he interacts with the media, I feel like. Just seems very captainy. And I mean, it makes sense when you're hanging out around somebody like Ryan Getzlaf for, the first couple of years of your career and that sort of thing. Right. And, you're basically learning the ropes from the guy who did it for, it was over a decade, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, totally makes sense there. So, but, speaking of, another guy that needs a contract this year as well, Trevor Zegras, puts up a couple points, a couple assists there in the game against the Carolina Hurricanes, and gets him to the 50-point mark, which is the second time he's done that in his career, back-to-back years as well. And yeah, last year he put up 61 points. He's currently on pace to beat that and set a new career high at 68 points, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Part of that as well is, he hasn't missed any games this year, which, knock on wood, doesn't happen. But yeah, Zegras being able to play in all 60 games definitely helps that a little bit. But just his offensive game especially has come, it just continues to improve, which obviously you love to see that. Put that on that list. But, it's the offense, I feel like, is almost like it's both his scoring as well as his passing are just generally improving as a whole. And I know the kind of the original idea, it seemed, was he was going to be a lot more of a pass first guy that could shoot, right? Kind of Getzlaf-esque in a way, right? But I do appreciate, though, that he is shooting a little bit more overall, it seems, and being able to convert on it. So what have you seen out of Trevor Zegras this year, both positives and negatives, I guess, because there have been some negatives floating around as well. Being a centerman, his defense maybe isn't what people are hoping for at the moment, even for a guy as young as he is.
I know his defense gets ridiculed a lot, but when you look at some of the stats, it really isn't as bad as people come to think it is. Yeah, he's on the ice for a lot of chance. Of course, what was that? Oh no, it was the game against Pittsburgh where was it him? Yes, it was him. He had the breakaway in overtime, and then he chose to pass
Yep.
it to Fowler instead. And it's like, oh, it's just like flashbacks to watching Ryan Getzlaf play when he doesn't take the shot.
I think we talked about that play alone for about 5 minutes on this show and broke down, okay, had he shot, like, what could have happened and the reasons that it was good that he did pass it. Like, we did, like, a deep dive on that.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that one. Jeez. I was like, why? On what? I don't know. And I feel like if Cam had his stick maybe a little like lowered, just like on the ice, it doesn't slip through, but we'll let bygones be bygones there. For Trevor, and I remind myself all the time that this is a 21-year-old kid we're talking about here. And I think in the league, you really and this is just like old hockey culture, not necessarily like the bad parts about it, but like, they expect these young kids that left their homes as teenagers to go play junior hockey and then thrown into college hockey in some cases, 21 to 25. But, obviously with the younger talent, they're teenagers when they come into this league and then barely in their early 20s. We expect them to be acting like 30-year-olds. We expect them to be acting like they know who they are. They're professional, mature, know what they're supposed to be doing, which, granted, there are players like that. But for the majority of time, I think back to when I was 21, I'm like, I was an idiot. Like some of the things that I would do, like, I don't know who I am. This is almost 10 years later. I'm 30 now. Like, it just, I don't know. I feel like there's this standard that's upheld to these young athletes that's not necessarily fair all of the time. Like we're talking about a kid that can't even rent a car in the States without paying an extra fee. That could still, if he wanted to, he could still be on his parents' health insurance. Like I think Trevor's really still trying to find his way and figure out who he is in this league and who he wants to be. And part of that is also comes with ridicule, comes with criticism because, he does have a personality. Was able to go viral, last year, which brought a lot of fans to him, but also a lot of people that don't like him. So you see him, he opens his mouth. He stands up for himself. He is not afraid to get in the faces of older players that have been around a little bit longer than he has. It's kind of very Corey Perry-esque, which as a Corey Perry fan, I love personally. But, and then there was the whole thing with Troy Stetcher, which obviously brought negative stuff there. And it just kind of showed that like there's people that are going to hate this kid no matter what he does. But that's the price you pay when you're one of the stars in this league. I mean, there's other guys that face that ridicule night in and night out as well. So I think while I am seeing he's definitely more comfortable this year and trying to figuring out his footing, like, hey, you're a Calder finalist. You've shown, hey, I'm one of the young, exciting talents in this league. This league is promoting me. They want to put me in the spotlight, but he's learning, hey, with that comes responsibility. So I like what I'm seeing so far. I think we're only going to see him get more comfortable and come into his own. So I don't know. I'm on as a Ducks fan. I love having him as a Duck. I can see why some people wouldn't like some of the things he does, but I like what we're seeing so far, and I'm looking forward to this contract Verbeek is going to ink him to, and what we get out of him in the future.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And you brought up the Stetcher comments, which, we've made the joke on the show before. Did everybody become a professional lip reader over the pandemic? Is that what everyone did with their time? Or like we literally had to wait for I guess not a release directly from the Arizona Coyotes, but the Coyotes through a reporter, I don't remember who it was offhand, to say, that's not what was said. They did say that whatever was said crossed the line, which, it looks like John Boy figured it out, which I love that everybody right away was just like, we need John Boy on the case because he's the one who's going to tell us what exactly was said. And
which he did it like 2 weeks later, though. I'm like, John Boy, we're over this now.
Yeah, exactly. But so it does still seem like it crossed the line. But yeah, just the fact that like everybody just jumped on him right away. And it's like, okay, let's just hold off a second here and, see if anything actually comes about this. Right. Like, and we had talked, I think it was a recording that we had done that, I kid you not, I think we finished the recording, like talking all about it. And about 2-3 hours later, maybe was that release from that reporter. Or was that tweet from that reporter, I guess,
was it Craig Morgan?
Yeah, I think that's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And But even on that show, we did look at it from both sides. We are like, okay, if that's not like, it's probably not what he said, but if that is, let's talk about that a little bit. So like, we just kind of approached it from both ways and laid it out. But basically, at the end of the day, it was just like, let's just hold on a second and wait here. At the same time, though, Trevor Zegras is, I feel like, I'm kind of realizing this, just kind of thinking back. I'm kind of wondering if a lot of this more stems from Canadians in particular, which this isn't a American versus Canadian thing, as I'm a Canadian pointing this out here. Trevor Zegras on that United States team that beat Team Canada in the 2021 World Junior Championship, and why am I getting these two mixed up today? Trevor Zegras.
A lot of T's going on here. It's fine.
Yeah, right. Trevor Zegras kind of being the face of that USA team, which we went through it, I think, a few days ago, and that was a stacked roster for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Trevor Zegras kind of being the media face of that team in that World Junior Championship. Canadians especially love their World Junior, so they're getting a lot of Trevor Zegras across their TV. And then add to the fact the trash can that got brought out for Team USA's photo rubbed Canadians really wrongly, and they gave an explanation. Some choose to believe it, some choose not to, and so I feel like it's a lot of hate more from Canadians as a whole, to be honest with you, just stemming from that World Junior Championship and bleeding into his time in the NHL. So, but I mean, even like stepping back from the fact that, I talk about this team twice a week and that sort of thing. And I've done it for 4 years now, and I've literally watched Trevor Zegras' entire career in the NHL so far. Taking a step back from that, Trevor Zegras is exactly the type of player I feel like that this league desperately needs. And like from a marketing standpoint, right? Like they're trying to like even just bringing him to the All-Star game last year to participate, which brings up a whole other conversation in regards to the All-Star game as well. Of, do you want like the all-star players to play in the game, and then maybe bring specialty guys out for the skills competition, right? Who might not necessarily have been the all-stars per se.
Right.
So, but just that the marketability, I think, of Trevor Zegras, even down to like EA's NHL 23 this year, right? And how much it seemed like they marketed that game even more than they had in the past, because they had the duo of Trevor Zegras as well as Team Canada women's player Sarah Nurse, which I personally love that pairing for a cover. I had that as my computer wallpaper for at least a month, because I was just yeah, it's
I love
great,
that.
great. So I love watching Sarah Nurse play. So she's so much fun to watch.
The only thing I hate about the marketing was if I have to see that Chell commercial one more time, I'm gonna throw my TV through my window. I can't do it. Chell?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do agree with that. So unfortunately, for EA, the marketing wasn't enough to have me pick up a copy of the game this year. And I've been one of the reasons that I feel like the lights have been kept on at EA Vancouver. I've bought that game every year since 2004. And this is the first year that I haven't, just because I want to see some actual improvements. And that's not on the developers, it's more at the people who are giving out money. So But anyway, I digress. Before I dive too deep into that and go off about that, I think actually there's one thing in particular for the Washington game I want to talk about. One of the kind of eyebrow raising moves that Pat Verbeek did, I guess you can still consider it early on in his Ducks tenure, as he got brought on in what was it, last February, I believe. It's February, January.
Just before the deadline. It was like a month, or like 6 weeks before the deadline.
Yeah, pretty quick. One of the eyebrow raising moves that he did was not offer a contract to Sonny Milano. He goes for a tryout in Calgary. It doesn't really work out there either. And he eventually gets picked up by the Washington Capitals, plays a few games in Hershey, and then gets brought up to the Caps and has been doing pretty well there, to be honest. And in this game against Anaheim, in the first period there, he's set up like Zegras was with him last season, set up behind the net and flips the puck over unfortunately for him, no Capitals are on top of the crease there. But I kind of looked at that and I'm just like, is that just Sonny Milano just subtly going like, hey, remember who I am, Pat? Like you might have made a little bit of a mistake here, especially considering your scoring's not doing too great. I kind of helped you with that a little bit last year. So, and even the Ducks Twitter account had tweeted out the clip and said like, stop it, Sonny, which I did find some, I did laugh at that a little bit, but, I don't know. What did you think about the whole Sonny Milano thing? I guess back in the summer, even, and then even just that move in particular for the Washington game. It had no impact on the game as a whole, but
Right. I, part of me, I loved. It seemed like I just kind of think back to like Sonny Milano's career as a whole. What he commits to Boston College and then he decommits. It was BC, I believe. I could be wrong there, but I believe it was Boston College.
yeah, I think
Goes in and plays junior. Really doesn't have the career that he wants in Columbus. Part of that probably being John Tortorella coaching there and them not exactly getting along, which you could totally tell whenever Torts had to talk about the alley-oop assist and goal last year when he was like saying, I don't think it's good for the game. You knew part of that was Sonny Milano being a part of it. But I was always, it was good to see him get a shot in Anaheim. And obviously he and Trevor working out together previously in the summer, you could definitely see there was a friendship and chemistry there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he lived with Sonny last year. Thought I heard something about that. Sonny's a bit old. Sonny's got to be what? He's late 20s, isn't he?
Sonny Milano is. I just pulled up his thing. He's 26.
Okay, yeah, mid late 20s. But when I fully expected him to get an offer sheet as a restricted free agent, so I was shocked that he didn't. Mm-hmm. But part of that being everyone was kind of saying, well, you can still, obviously, if you don't get an offer sheet, you can still, sign with the club. It's just, different process there. And for me, like, given the fact that Verbeek really wasn't around for majority of the season, I was like, okay, what are we basing this off of? And for me, my first thought was maybe Dallas Eakins didn't like him, didn't love having him in the locker room. And I hate coming to those conclusions because I know, like, there's lots of talk about Max Comtois and his attitude right now and if he's going to get moved. And I hate speculating those things because unless we have like an actual report or, something confirming, hey, something's going on here, or if they're just out here being a jerk to the media, being a jerk about their team, like, I really don't think that's a fair assumption to make about people. And I think for Sonny Milano, a lot of it is, his track record and what people have seen and heard from him in his past that maybe kind of came to that conclusion. So I felt bad that being like my first original thought, but I don't think it's that outlandish to think that. And as a guy where it's like, hey, I've got something to prove here. He goes, gets a PTO with Calgary. That doesn't work out like you said, but I'm thrilled for him getting the opportunity to shine with Washington. I think he absolutely deserves a spot in the NHL. He's an NHL caliber player for sure. If the alley-oop thing was a message, I just think it's kind of stupid, especially given the fact that it was Zegras that alley-ooped it over the net. I was kind of
exactly.
Why are you doing Zegras' move? If you're, hey, Verbeek, look what I can do.
Exactly.
Right? Like, he doesn't care. Verbeek's busy. He is going to be busy at the deadline because he's barely done anything this entire season. So we had the trade just recently, and then claiming Jason Megna off waivers. Like, that's pretty much all the Ducks front office has done this regular season. So I'm like, that's why I'm thinking it's going to be a busy deadline. So Verbeek wasn't caring. He was like, okay, have fun, kid.
Exactly. Yeah, I know the lack of, especially waiver claims, because there have been some great players on the waiver wire this year, and the Ducks have a ton of cap space for this year, at least until they sign a few of those young guys to some hopefully long-term deals.
Yeah.
But like, I know that's been a head scratcher for not only myself, but for quite a few Ducks fans. Just, is it, I guess to go to the, another kind of reoccurring joke over the last couple of weeks is going back to Gary Bettman's press conference in Montreal saying that teams like players and coaches don't tank, but the idea, well, those two, like coaches and players, I will admit, like, they don't try to tank, right? Like, they're out there trying to do the best that they can to win every game.
Definitely.
General managers, however, which I think got brought a little bit more to light with Clayton Keller's comments the other week when Arizona was doing pretty dang good. General managers are, they're looking ahead for their team's future, especially a guy like Pat Verbeek, who just got brought in and is trying to shape this team into his own. And what better way to start to just to really give your team a kickstart going, and offensively, especially if you're able to pick up a top 3 pick in a very deep draft coming up that, not to, jump the gun a little bit, but looks like it might challenge the 2003 draft where Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry came from. And at the top of that list, you got Connor Bedard, who is also somebody who is friends with Mason McTavish. As Bedard is even said, McTavish texts me every time that they lose, which I loved that personally.
Oh, I loved it too. It was like, hey, buddy, look at the weather here. It's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Got a room for you right there.
Yeah, exactly. Come hang out with a couple of your buddies. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So, but it does make sense in that sense, I guess, to not make some of those moves, but maybe, I guess, looking out for your long-term future, picking up some of those better players on the waiver wire might have been beneficial for the future of this team. But yeah, I guess for the lack of moves, I guess, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Verbeek kind of, once we knew, I feel like, what was it? How long did the Ducks go without a regulation win? Wasn't it November, like late November?
November or maybe even early December. It was a long time to say.
Long time without a regulation win, and we were all just kind of like. And granted, I do think that maybe expectations were a little bit higher given the play from the first half of last season. I do think people were like, "Oh, maybe the Ducks will, go for a wild card spot." I'm like, no. I definitely had them higher than they are for sure. I think I had them 6th in the division. I did too. I certainly didn't have Seattle as high as they are right now.
Yeah, that's I didn't have that.
That's where I will hold the L personally. But no, I think expectations were a little bit too high going into this season, just given the young talent that we do have. And, when things were struggling and all of a sudden you don't see any moves being made. And personally, not to say I was shocked, but I just figured like a new general manager would want to come in and pick their own guy behind the bench. So when I saw he gave Dallas the option year to have him on for another full season, I was kind of scratching my head at first. And then it kind of made sense. You're like, hey, this guy really didn't have a full shot under Pat Verbeek with a team that Verbeek had built. So I could see him saying, all right, I'll give you, another year here. See what you do with it. I don't think he'll be back next season. I think Dallas is going to start the interview process and want to pick his own guy to be behind the bench. But once Verbeek had said, he's like, obviously tanking, nobody wants to tank. But if you have the chance to go for one of these, top 3 picks, like obviously you're not going to turn it down. I mean, you look at Tampa, you look at Colorado, you look at all the teams that have won Stanley Cups in the past 10 years. They all benefited from top draft picks, from having a top 3 pick. And, with the exception of Mason McTavish back in 2021, I mean, the last time the Ducks had a high draft pick was Bobby Ryan at 2. And that's one of the benefits. Like, for the longest time, the Ducks were a competitive team. The Ducks were a fun team. And now that things aren't the case anymore, like, we can benefit off of there. And as you're a general manager, and like you said, you have such a deep draft coming up and you have a shot at one of those, why would you? Why would you try to shift course and say, hey, I'm going to take this team from a potential, top lottery pick to, hey, 9th, 10th. Yeah, we'll be somewhat closer to a wild card spot, but, and granted, in a deep draft, you're still going to get a solid player, but you want one of those top 5. Especially this year, you want one of those. So it really didn't surprise me. And that's why, I think he's going to be real busy shipping out some of the veterans out and especially capitalizing on the play of some of those guys right now. Like, I imagine Adam Henrique's getting a lot more calls than he has been in the past. And you just think back, like Bob Murray put him on waivers. What was it, 2 years ago now?
Yeah. Like that's wild to think about. Somebody
could have gotten him and that contract for free, but it's, he's shown us, especially last season, that he's not afraid to ship out fan favorites. He is not scared of that at all. So he cares solely about the team and what's best for the team. And I think there's a lot of good in that. And that's how I think, Henry and Susan Samueli really liked him. I'm sure, I imagine Verbeek just seems like a very straight shooter to me from, interviews I've seen and everything he's done. I'm sure he went into that interview with them and was like, I'm not going to, beat around the bush here. Like,
Yeah.
this is going to be a rebuild. This is going to be a process. And to do that, there's going to be losing years. Yeah, we've got great talent in this pipeline right now, but there's still work to be done. And you need somebody that's not like Bob Murray, doesn't have those personal connections there, that isn't an absolute, I guess, toxic mess in the locker room and the front office, as we've learned. Someone that's going to come in and make good hockey decisions for the best sake of the club. So I'm all in on the Verbeek We Trust campaign. He's got the best situation possible for a new general manager. I mean, he's got cap space to work with. He's about to get a top draft pick in some regard for this draft. I mean, if you're Verbeek, you're chilling. I mean, you're like, hey, we got options here. And you could be Mike Greer up in San Jose trying to make these deals happen, which, listen, if you're shipping out Timo Meier right now, and it's a seller's market it's a buyer's market, not more so, because yes, buyer's market. I was like, wait, no, I mixed those. It's definitely a buyer's market where we're seeing these big guys go, and it's just not, the return back is just not going to be as big as they have been, I think. So,
yeah,
I think as much as we're joking about, first round picks for Klingberg, first round picks for all these, I think we're going to be very underwhelmed, but we'll get something back. So,
yeah, no, I agree. On the coaching front specifically, at first was really surprised as well by the optional extended year of Dallas Eakins as well. My theory behind it, though, is that there is a type of coach that Verbeek has in mind for this team for the future, just wasn't available at that moment. So that's kind of my idea. So it's like, okay, there's this thing already built in that we can just at least have somebody behind the bench and go from there. So, but
do you think there's a specific person in mind, or was it like a specific kind of like a type of coach?
I feel like it was a kind of type of coach at the same time, though. And I know this one seems kind of divided with Ducks fans. I would love the return of Bruce Boudreau to Anaheim personally.
Same.
And it lines up perfectly now with Vancouver. Like, give him a fresh start in a sunny location again that he loved to be in, that he did really well in as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it would just be the perfect situation, and especially for some of these guys that we have on this team, right? Like, even just like the simplest thing of I think it was with with Besser, I think, in Vancouver. He just, Bruce Boudreau was just like, just shoot more, like, go for it. Like, just almost like just somebody, just go do it. Right. Like an NHL coach is really just I shouldn't say overpaid. There's a reason they're paid the amount that they are. But like a glorified motivator more than anything. Like, they definitely, have their hands in how the team plays and whatnot. But like I feel like the main role of an NHL coach is to be a motivator. And Bruce Boudreau is a great motivator, I think, especially the first, say, 3-4 years of his time with any given team. So that's my thought, at least, on that. He's just waiting for someone, or like a type of coach in particular, to take this team further.
I could see that.
So
it's interesting because, like, I kind of make the joke that, like, NHL head coaching it's literally, when they go to hire somebody, it's like a blockbuster. Like, it's the same guys that are there, and you take one out, you have her tenure, then you bring it back, and someone else is going to hire the same guys. I know some people use like the carousel phrase, which also works too. But it'd be interesting. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see, a young team, a young up and coming team, and maybe somebody new, maybe a new head coach, like somebody that's hasn't had a head coaching opportunity. I would also, one of my favorite all-time NHL head coaches is Dan Bylsma. I know he's head coaching the Coachella Valley Firebirds right now, which is the Kraken's AHL affiliate. But I loved him as a coach with Pittsburgh, and he is a former Duck. And I remember when I interned for the Penguins, and I was talking to him, I was like, I'm a huge Ducks fan. And he said, "Oh, it's my wife and I. We want to retire in Corona Del Mar. Like, when we're done with hockey, like, that's our goal." And I'm like, "Hey, buddy, you want to come back?" But I don't know. Depends if he wants to be an NHL head coach again. But I think he would be great. I know everyone's like Barry Trotz. I don't know. I mean, I love Barry Trotz as a head coach. I think he should have stayed out in the. I mean, I'm not should have. I mean, that wasn't his call, of course.
Mhm.
But I would have loved to have seen him out on Long Island a little bit longer. I don't know how he'd do with this specific group in Anaheim, but it just, I don't know. I felt like it was very fit for the Islanders and their style of hockey, but you know, who knows?
Yeah, no, for sure. I know one guy that Carter and I had talked about. He's currently the head coach and general manager of the Everett Silvertips of the WHL. Is Dennis Williams. He's brought a lot of star power or potential star power to the NHL through his Everett Silvertips over the last couple of years, especially in the goaltending department. I believe he was, the coach for Carter Hart in Philadelphia, and most recently the AHL goalie of the year in Dustin Wolf, who's playing for the Calgary Wranglers right now in the Flames system, and he's having another phenomenal season. So I know that was one guy that we talked about. There was an episode as well that we had like an entire succession plan, basically of, okay, it's really not working with Dallas this year. What can we do just for this year at least? And like figured out with the AHL and everything like that. But I want to take a quick.
That seems like an interesting segment. You have to send that to me after. I will say this. What I have heard is that, as a guy, like the guys love Dallas, like great guy, really supportive. So when you come to like as a motivator, like a highly paid motivator, I feel like he does the job there very well. But maybe, on the actual like setting
coaching side of
it,
the
coaching side, the part of his job where, it's actually in the title, maybe it's not the best, but as a guy, they love him. So
yeah, there's definitely some question marks there. I've made the joke all year that, it's hard to, play within a system when there is no system in place.
There is no. Oh my God. How do you know the system when you're looking at the lineup every night? Like, what are we
you look at the lineup, you look at how the team just plays on the ice. Like, I think it was it was earlier this week. Which game was it? The game against Tampa. I said, like, and mind you, this is the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I said every second of that game looked like the Tampa Bay Lightning were on a power play. Not so much because of the Lightning even, but just the fact that the Ducks just like stayed still almost in their own zone and just like set up like a penalty kill basically. So
that was the one thing too, going into like this season when they were just fighting tooth and nail to get one regulation win, was like playing together. It seemed like it was still training camp. Like they were still figuring out how to play together. And that was another thing that Verbeek brought up was like, hey, we've got a lot of new guys. It takes time for them to gel. And I completely understand that when you're coming into a brand new system where there is no system, that has to be extremely difficult. But it just seemed like it took so long for them to really find their groove and learn how to play together. And we see spots here and there of it, but it's never been there consistently this season. So I think once you bring that up, I was like, that actually really makes sense for why this team really hasn't, played to their potential, because I'm not complaining given, what we're going to go into with the draft this coming year, but on paper, this team should not be as bad as they have been this season.
Yeah, no, on paper, it definitely shouldn't be. And I guess, that's a great way to go into this here as well. It's hard to play behind a defensive system when there is no system in place, seemingly. John Gibson over the last couple of games, though, and especially over like the last couple of weeks, but like the last few games especially, has been finding a way to make it work. Putting up a .953 save percentage on 43 shots against Washington, a .962 on 52 shots on against Carolina there. Just he's been playing phenomenal. Like to combine these last two games, especially, a .958 save percentage, 4 goals against on 96 shots. And Natural Stat Trick says that he has faced 34 high danger shots and has saved 30 of them. All of the goals have been high danger, which is, you don't obviously you don't want goals against, but you would rather have them be high danger ones than low danger. And putting up a goal save above expected of 5.7 right now. John Gibson over the last couple of games has been playing out of his mind. And there's one tweet from Felix Sicard of the Sporting Tribune and the Crash the Pond podcast.
Felix.
Oh yeah, I love seeing his tweets. He and CJ as well. I love seeing
Yeah.
the stuff that they put out.
He tweeted something today that got Ducks fans just like out of their minds. Did you see it? It was like
No,
something about
surprisingly, I haven't been on Twitter a whole lot today.
it was like something about if Troy Terry wanted to leave to go to a competitor, and Ducks fans just went launched on him, which he can do. He has a knack for doing that, just very subtly. It was something about, I think, Mason McTavish having more goals. Something, it was early, maybe a couple months ago, when he angered the Kings fans by saying that he had more I think more goals than Quentin Byfield and somebody else combined. And the Kings fans just lost it. I was like, Felix. I admire the just immaculate, like unintentional, but also intentional troll job that just Kings fans just bite onto. Oh, it's too easy, but I apologize.
Oh, no,
I interrupted you.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, we saw it last week with Kings fans, especially Ducks fans, Kings fans, especially on social media, do not like each other.
No, not at all. I try to stay out of that for the most part because it's always, it gets messy most of the time. And I try to I keep off Twitter. Like I stay on it to like interact here and there.
Yeah.
But gosh, it's funny when like, even like on some of my content, like I'll just post about the Ducks, like Kings nowhere aren't mentioned, aren't tagged.
They just show up.
It'll just be GKG. I'm like, I don't go on your stuff commenting about my team. Like, are you that? Do I live that? Do the Ducks live that rent free on Figueroa? Is my question, which they will never admit that they do, because they'll always be like, "Oh, Mickey Mouse team, like little brother, like oh." It's like, well, you're the one. Like, we seem to be taking up a good amount of real estate there, and I just said we, which is kind of like irks me a little bit, but still. I can say Ducks fans.
It's a mentality, right? The fans are in it as much as the players are, right? So
we pay for tickets, we watch, we spend, we have emotional stake in this and how the team does. So I'll drop a we every now and then. That's fine.
But yeah, so Felix tweeted the other day after that game against Washington, definitely felt like a Patrick Kane-esque "someone rescue me from this" type performance from John Gibson. And that went into Carolina as well. And that tweet speaking of rent-free, has been living in my head rent-free, especially after Elliot Freeman going on one of the Duck Stream episodes recently and talking about John Gibson and just the idea of him being moved. Obviously, it's really hard to do with his contract, but at the same time, you put up games like this behind a team like the Anaheim Ducks and some playoff team that might just want, assurance or just to really solidify their goaltending, might take a chance at those next 3 years, but you're definitely looking at retention of some sort, maybe even like a 3-way trade, which, those seem to be the going thing right now. So maybe it's just, who needs a goalie, and let's call up Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, with the hard cap, you have to, like, some of these teams, all these competitive teams are right up there, and they have which is why the Rangers are trying to make magic happen and get Patrick Kane on their team. It's, it's why I know Vegas is in on Timo Meier, even though I can't even imagine I can't, unless it's the right price. I can't see Mike Greer trading him to within the division. So I think he's
Godfather offer.
Exactly.
Can't refuse.
It's got to be an offer he cannot refuse, which I don't think Vegas can afford. But it's with John Gibson. This has been the talk the last 5 seasons is, John Gibson moving at the deadline, because they're like, oh, here's this great goalie, which good. I'm glad everyone can acknowledge that he's a fantastic goaltender, despite being on a horrible team and with no defense, no help, being painfully outshot, which is, I feel like what gets me out of bed in the morning is having to defend John Gibson on a daily basis. And I love doing it. I'll keep doing it. But I just look at all the teams that could afford to take on John Gibson, that would want to. And I don't know if there's a way, like you said, I don't think there's a way to make it happen without a third team in there. Because if you're Pat Verbeek, you don't want to be hanging on to too much salary retention, which I think he will have to do with Adam Henrique if he's going to move him. I don't see the Ducks getting rid of, if he is moved at the deadline, I don't see him coming off the books completely. There's just so much money. And then with Gibson, it would have to be as well. The one place, and it keeps getting brought up, and probably because he's from there, Pittsburgh needs some goalie help desperately. I mean, given the Tristan Jarry, I'm glad he had a bounce back year last year, but Casey DeSmith has just been so inconsistent and it's just not a reliable backup. And it's hard to believe, you're even joking about the idea of like, oh, John Gibson as a possible backup. You're like, no, but which is why probably Anthony Stolarz is more of a feasible option there. But you look at even possibly facilitating a trade there, barely any cap space. Ron Hextall has already said he does not want to let go of high draft picks, which Verbeek's not going to let go of Gibby without some high draft capital in return. And it's kind of one of those things where you even look at that team kind of, we're reverse. We're looking at the Penguins as a picture, they're in not only win now mode, they're in, hey, we're slipping. We're getting out of our window here as we're seeing now. I mean, their core is showing up, but everything else isn't. Yeah. And you've got a core that's not getting any younger. So you're like, hey, we got to capitalize while Crosby, Malkin, and Letang are still producing high. And part of that, obviously bottom six has been a mess for them defense, but goaltending has also been inconsistent as well, with Jarry going in and off the injured reserve. So goaltending is definitely, if they're going to be making moves, add to the defense, add to goaltending there, which, hey, we've got some pieces to offer outside of Gibson for that as well.
Yep.
But I just don't see a way. It just... Either Verbeek would have to come down in asking price, which I don't think he will, especially for a guy like Gibson. And I just think, like, I was actually talking about this with my dad earlier this morning when, I think it was, who tweeted about Gibby being available? I can't remember. Maybe Darren might have. I don't think it was Elliot this morning, that like not being available, but that he was getting interest. There's a lot of interest in Gibson and Stolarz. I think it was Darren. I can't remember. But if you look at the Ducks' history with goaltenders, you think back to, it was Jaguar's net, and then Hiller comes up. And they were the tandem. And then Hillsy kind of beat him out, obviously, when they shipped off Jaguar to Toronto. You had Hiller. Then you had Fost kind of come in. And, that while that was an exciting time for Ducks hockey, he never really stole the net from him. But then you had Freddie come up. And then it was Freddie's net. And then you had Gibby getting called up to the Ducks. And then they were the tandem. And then Gibby kind of won that battle. Not necessarily won that battle, but it was kind of he was like, hey, this is my net. No, we've got an amazing goalie, an amazing NHL-ready goalie in Lukas Dostal down in the AHL. I just think it would be a great transition if Pat Verbeek were going to trade Gibson. I think one solid year with them as a tandem, with them, being able to share the net, with Lukas to be able to learn from Gibby and kind of get a full season under his belt there, I think would be ideal. And I think I would personally love that more and kind of go along with the Ducks transition of a changing of the guard and net. I just think if you're going to trade any goalie, and with Stolarz being injured right now, I'm sure it makes it more difficult. But listen, Thatcher Demko's already getting talked about being traded. He's been hurt all year. So not completely out of the question. But I mean, it would pain me to see Gibby go, but I do it pains me even more to see him suffering and not being able to just really shine the way he has been, the way we were hoping. I mean, oh God, the way he was playing earlier on in his career, he's still a fantastic goaltender, but probably not the same he was after injuries and given, the state of the team. And he's been involved in so many trade rumors and people are, throwing everything out there. And he's been the guy, he and his agent have said, hey, nothing's coming from us. Nobody's asking for a trade either. It's not Gibson. He's loyal to this team. And also you kind of think about it and everyone's like, oh, he'd love to come home to Pittsburgh. I'm like, the Ducks and the Penguins are kind of on opposite directions if we're thinking about it. Granted, yes, the Ducks are about to get a very high draft pick and the Penguins are, I think right now, like one of the wild card spots, but the Penguins are only going to get worse. The Ducks are only going to get better. So if you want to be a part of a cup winning, you want to be a part of a team with playoff hopes and a playoff future, wouldn't you want to stay in Anaheim?
Yeah, exactly. And and even for Pittsburgh, at the time of this recording, they're currently on the outside looking in Buffalo, taking that second wild card spot there, which that's a team just personally I've been enjoying kind of watching because it's not like, and I'm trying to remove bias from this as well. It's not like the Oilers who just sucked because they kind of, I guess the Sabres kind of did it to themselves. The Oilers just constantly sucked to suck. And then add to the fact, that now there's a rule to how many draft like top 3 picks you can have in however many years kind of thing because of those Edmonton Oilers. The Buffalo Sabres just, they tried to go for Eichel and it just hasn't worked since then. And to see them, doing well now, they've been a fun team to watch this season.
Oh, they're a blast. I mean, you got to think about, and everyone was kind of giving Kevin Adams a really hard time, especially for how he was handling the Jack Eichel situation. Granted, he did not grant himself. That was not a situation he himself created, but he handled it the best way possible. And I honestly, I know Jack Eichel scored a beautiful goal last night for the Knights, but I would say I'd give the W to that trade, possibly a Buffalo. I do think a big piece in that was Alex Tuch coming back, and who's from Buffalo, and really creates that pride there, and that Buffalo's a city where they root for their own. They're very, very proud to be from Buffalo, and obviously Bills Mafia there and that culture. Everyone, you're from Buffalo, you love being from Buffalo, and everything Buffalo you're obsessed with. So I think that part kind of helped that kind of culture and kind of getting the fans excited again. Obviously bringing back the goat head, but all these young guys and just able to play well. You kind of, now that I'm talking about it, that's a team that could go for a goalie at the deadline. That's a team that I would want to go. If you're looking at a Thatcher Demko, I know they tried to trade Gibby to Buffalo, 2 to 3 seasons ago, but that was
a while ago.
That was X'd, or was it? No, it was Buffalo. I was trying to think. It wasn't Winnipeg. It was definitely Buffalo. Winnipeg's got Connor Hellebuck, so it was Buffalo. But no, that's another team. I wouldn't mind, if Timo Meyer will get moved. But yeah, I'd love him there. But nah, I though I jokingly tweeted, but like if the Sabres make the playoffs, I will get the goat head tattooed on my body somewhere. I love that team. I love that. I think the fan base is great. It's a great city. Obviously, I've kind of adopted the Sabres as one of my teams that I cheer for. So it's been fun to watch for them, and it's exciting. They deserve it. Buffalo's a town where hockey is just thrives. I mean, Patrick Kane came out of Buffalo. So the fact that, the Jack Eichel situation didn't work out for them, but they're on the path. They're on a great path forward with lots of prospects, lots of picks ahead. The future is bright. And if you're Kevin Adams, you got to be sitting pretty comfortably.
Yeah, exactly. My part of my girlfriend's family is from Buffalo, moved to Canada. And everything I've heard about Buffalo is basically what I see in that part of the family. So yeah, great people.
Have you been ever?
Around. I haven't. No, I guess the closest I would have been was Manhattan. That's
not that close, but
no, not overly. But I mean, to be fair, that's a lot closer to there than I've been even in like my own country, I guess, to like Ottawa or Toronto or something.
You've never been to Toronto?
No, I haven't even been as far as Winnipeg in Canada. I have been the opposite way. Like I've been to Vancouver and that, but in terms of Canada, I've been pretty like within like a few provinces kind of thing. But in terms of the states, it's been like Arizona and Vegas and the West Coast, and been to Anaheim a couple times for Disneyland and that sort of thing, and would love to come back to that area for Ducks and more Disneyland and that kind of stuff, especially with like Avengers Campus and Galaxy's Edge and stuff like that.
It's so cool. Worth the trip.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure worth the money as well that's going to cost me. But
no kidding. No kidding. I grew up going to Disneyland, and it's just crazy to think like as kids like how much it was still expensive, of course, but you could get into the park for like, and I'm from a military family, so we got the benefit of like discounted tickets. Like you could get like into the park for an adult for like $100, like less than $100, and now you're looking at for that, and that's a park hopper, maybe a little bit more, like 110, and now you're looking at like $200 over that, and it's insane, but people pay it.
Yeah, exactly. I did learn
power of the mouse.
Yeah, exactly. I did learn just this week though. I didn't realize that Avengers Campus was like the Bugs Life area. I didn't know that actually. Like I came across a tweet that was like, oh, like what happened to the Bugs Life thing? And it's the like the person playing Ant-Man holds up like the Bugs Life park in a container kind of thing. I'm like, that's fantastic. I love that.
That's funny. I love that. Yeah. No, it was like those. that was popular. I mean, I have younger brothers, and when they were little, that was always fun. But Bugs Life came out. Gosh, I was little when Bugs Life came out, so you might not have been alive when Bugs Life came
Bugs
out.
Life. Oh, because that was what late 90s, I think.
Late
I think
90s. That was like
Toy Story
98.
was 94, if I remember correctly. Let's take a look here. Bugs Life came out 1998, so I would have been a year old at that point.
All right.
So I'm January of 97. So
okay, there you
but
go.
yeah, but like that was a movie that I grew up with as well, and surprised I didn't, like destroy that DVD with the amount of times that I watched that and like Robots. Like I know it's not a Disney property, but that movie especially I watched so many times.
Robots. You think about that cast too, and you're like, how did you
Right?
get all of those guys? Like, it was insane.
And then
how did you get all those guys to sign on to do an animated movie?
Yeah, and it's even better with like a lot of animated things, especially that are aimed more towards kids. Like just watching them now as an adult and going, "Oh, now I get that joke," right? That completely flew over your head as a child.
Every time I watch SpongeBob, there's something where you're like, ah.
Exactly. One of the it was my girlfriend and I remember went to see Frozen 2 and we did a late night showing of it. So it was all just people like at least our age and older. And it was just a comedy movie because everybody was getting all of the jokes basically. So it was so good. So, but sorry, we really strayed off. To go back to John Gibson here for a quick second because
how did we get to Disney from John Gibson?
I forget how we did exactly. That's the joy of the show. We'll just go off on random tangents. So
that's the great part about podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. But back to John Gibson in particular, because he did a few, like not only putting up those wins and those stats that he did, but he's just adding as well to just records overall. The game against Washington, he put up his 1,343rd save of the season in that game. Became like the goalie with the most saves in the first 40 games of a season since Montreal Canadiens legend Jacques Plante saved 1,396 in 1963. The last guy to hit a number close to that was Philadelphia's Bernie Perron, where he said that against the Chicago Blackhawks on February 15th, 1969. Like what Gibson has been doing this week has just been ridiculous. And then we can add on to that with the Carolina game, the second goalie in NHL history since they began tracking the stat in 1955. The second goalie in NHL history to make 50 plus saves in 3 games within a month. The only other guy to do that was Gump Worsley of the New York Rangers in 1963, which I went back and I found those games. I don't have the exact scores, but 55 saves against the Chicago Blackhawks in a tie game. You don't hear that thrown around anymore.
No.
54 saves against the Toronto Maple Leafs in a loss and 56 against the Detroit Red Wings in a loss. And that's all pre-expansion, pre-1967, which is just nuts to me. Just like the numbers and like the conversation of what goalies John Gibson has gotten into this week. So, and the record that keeps getting updated, that list especially, is like, most saves in a game by a Duck. John Gibson holds 4 of the top 5 spots now for the Anaheim Ducks. It's ridiculous. And then fifth spot is J.S. Jaguar in 5th spot.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, but yeah, just John Gibson has been otherworldly these last few games, especially. And to bring it all back around, yeah, Patrick Kane-esque, like Felix said, in a way of like the get me out of here. Like Patrick Kane has been going off as well, trying his hardest to get to the Rangers, which
Verbeek's like, hey, listen, you play well these next few games leading up to the deadline. I will see if I can move you.
And John Gibbs is just like, I bet.
Yeah,
challenge let's accepted. See what we can do. Yeah, exactly. And he's like looking ahead at the schedule of who he's got up, and he's like, I got till Friday. I can make this happen. Might be able to make this happen.
You got Chicago tomorrow, Washington on what, Wednesday?
Yeah, Washington on Wednesday.
Washington's on Friday, I think, right?
No, Washington's on Wednesday and Montreal's
Wednesday.
on Friday.
Montreal. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember it was going to be the Dadnoff return to Anaheim.
Oh, yeah, right now. And he just got traded today, right?
To the
Or was that
Stars. So
yesterday?
lame.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
lame.
exactly. Oh, but speaking of former stars, I guess we can talk about John Klingberg really quickly here, who returns to the lineup against Carolina after being hurt with a lower body injury, if I'm not mistaken, and just adds to his point total headed towards that trade deadline that all Ducks fans kind of were eyeing right away once John Klingberg was signed to the Anaheim Ducks in the summer. He puts up a goal against Carolina there. That goal gave him 8 points in his last 10 games. We kind of just hinted at it earlier on the episode, but what do you think John Klingberg could get us? Because I know the original idea was, like a first round pick, maybe a second kind of thing. But as the season went on, it was less and less, it felt like. But this resurgence kind of at the right time, if he were to go somewhere at the trade deadline, what are you thinking the Ducks could get? And I guess to make it a two-part question, what do you think Verbeek wants, I guess?
I mean, I think if you're Verbeek, you want a first round pick for Klingberg. But I think, you kind of think back to, this past summer where he wanted long-term, high dollar long-term. And obviously, you could tell he wanted to stay in Dallas. He wanted to make it work in Dallas, but, Dallas was saying, hey, like, we don't, they didn't see his value, even though he was, kind of aging at that point, starting to kind of decline a little bit. So that's how, he ended up with no long-term contract and said, hey, like, sign a deal in Anaheim, help the Ducks get to the cap floor, have a show me deal. Either things work out great here, and if not, ship you off to the deadline elsewhere. I loved this deal from the get-go because the Ducks had the cap room to work with to offer this guy $7 million for 1 year. You can handle the cap, the salary retention. I think where Verbeek is gonna, do well is trade-wise is you can afford to retain 4.5. Well, no, it'd be 3.5. Excuse me. Yeah. 3.5 million on your books for the rest of the season because the Ducks aren't going to the playoffs, and once the off season hits, you're done with it. So I think at 50%, getting John Klingberg at 50%, for a good playoff run, I should be very appealing to a lot of teams. I still don't think he'll amount to a first round pick. I will be shocked and pleasantly surprised if we do get a first round pick in return. I think a big part of that, I know Luke Shen has been talked of being moved at the deadline. Someone was throwing around a first round pick for him, which I think is absurd.
Yeah.
To think he could get a first round pick, but
mind you, Nick Delorier almost did a couple seasons ago from us.
Delorier, well, yeah. I mean, I was thinking that too. It was the fact that, that Delorier was traded when his value was at all-time high. I mean, the fact that we got a third-round pick for Nick Delorier is still absurd to me. I thought that was a brilliant move. That's when you trade a guy at their peak value. That's when you take advantage of their status. You're also trading him to a general manager, Billy Guerin, that loves that style of hockey and loves that kind of player. So I think if you're going to get the most for Klingberg, you really have to look for teams that are looking for some offensive production on the blue line. You're not going to be looking for a stay-at-home defenseman. If you're looking for a stay-at-home defenseman, good on, the defensive side, obviously, John Klingberg's not going to be your guy. But
nope.
And especially, the first half of the season where he really wasn't doing much. But this resurgence he's having where he's either getting more comfortable with the team or he's saying, shoot, the deadline's coming. Like, I gotta let's kick it into gear here so I can
looking
find
at the calendar and going, oh shit.
It's time to start playing. Okay. But I mean, I do think it could be something like if it's a second round pick, great. But I think you're going to have to bank on, and that's kind of how I feel about the Patrick Kane trade too, is where you're like right now, he's obviously not playing to, he's not the player he once was, but you've seen what he's capable of doing and what he's shown in the past. And obviously his Hall of Fame career speaks for itself. And that's what the Rangers are going to be acquiring. So I think Verbeek is going to have to sell that and sell it hard in order to get any kind of capital return there. So it's, I mean, I don't think it'll be any kind of package. I think it'll be maybe a pick a pick or maybe a not low roster player, like a prospect. I don't know. It's interesting to see. And you kind of have to wait and see what the market is. You got to kind of see more of these trades happening to kind of get a feel for, okay, like what kind of packages are being thrown out there? What's the going rate, I guess is a better term for it. But if I had to guess, I'm going to be optimistic here. I'm going to say second round pick.
Which a couple weeks ago, I probably would have went, oh, that seems pretty high. Cause I was even going like, oh, like we'd be lucky for a third or a fourth kind of thing. But yeah, with how he's been playing over the last little bit, second, I would be pretty happy with that, to be honest with you.
I'd be thrilled. Yeah. I'd be probably third is probably more safe on the safe third, and maybe a prospect.
Yeah. Prospect or like a bottom pairing defenseman to kind of fill the hole a little bit in the roster.
Right. And of course at 50% retained, I think that's where that's kind of like what they did with Lindholm last year, taking on 50% of his contract to trade him to the Bruins. So it'll be interesting. And you kind of think about all the teams that would be calling. You're like, okay, you can always benefit from defensemen, I think, going into the playoffs, of course. And that's why I think a guy like Shattenkirk will get calls too. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, no, he's getting, is he getting under $4 million this year?
Shattenkirk is getting just south of 3.9.
Okay. I mean, you can retain a little bit of that if you want to, because he's a free agent come this summer. I don't know. That's why I like when you're retaining on rentals, that's the other thing about Klingberg is, you're kind of banking on a rental. And I'm sure, he ideally would like to go into a situation where he's going to sign a long-term deal, but I don't see teams wanting to do that, especially with him. So,
yeah,
which is a shame. It's a shame. Obviously, you want the most value for yourself, but I think, he wanted like a 7-7 kind of deal. And it's just like, you're not that guy, pal.
I really went tinfoil hat on the last episode, and I brought up the idea of to salvage his career, because I said like the term offensive defenseman for him, the defenseman is only in title. He doesn't do a whole lot of defense otherwise. So I had the galaxy brain idea of what if, and it might be a little late in his career, but to try to salvage it a little bit longer, pull a reverse Brent Burns and move him up to a wing, because he is a guy that can pass and has speed to go up the ice at least. Just defensively, it's not really happening there, but you don't have to worry about the defensive liability as much, I guess, just with a different role like that. So, but total galaxy brain idea, I know, but
that's what makes it fun, though. That's having those ideas and just throwing it out there. But I do also think it was a shame. We were all really looking forward to seeing him play with Jamie Drysdale and seeing what kind of things he could learn, as Jamie's going into this second year of his career.
And we got 8 games.
Unreal. It's just not fair.
No.
Well, I think for a lot of people, the expectation was that, Jamie was going to, slowly rise, kind of like Trevor, come more into his own this year and get more comfortable on that blue line. As we've seen, young defensemen, it takes more time for them to get more comfortable in this league. And that's why a lot of them don't make that jump, so early on in their careers. And there's still people questioning Cam Fowler and whether he should have came into the league at 2010, living with Scott Niedermayer for that season. I still don't. I mean, if you had to think back, maybe he probably could have benefited more from some time, a little bit more time before coming up to the big club. But, at that point, you're just like, it's no point really looking back and saying, oh, what if? But, I think he's having a solid year. So, which granted, I do think for a while, I kind of had the feeling that Fowler was kind of plateauing. You're like, okay, this is what we're going to get here, which is, is fine. Like he's fine on the blue line. We have him. I mean, he's locked into that contract, but I don't, it's with defensemen, it's always tricky. And I think more so now, as they're getting, as talent's getting better, you're kind of thinking to yourself, you're like, okay, what's, do they benefit more? Where do these young guys develop? Like, I don't know, development is always, I think everyone has like different schools of thought, like, oh, okay, more time in juniors, more time in the minors to really kind of get comfortable at the league. Or do you just throw them in with the Sharks and say, hey, go swim?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, in terms of defensemen, you got Cam Fowler, Colton White, and Eurovac Ninen with contracts that go past this season. So we're going to be seeing, I think, a lot of change on the blue line, I guess, for the Anaheim Ducks. But yeah, so a lot more trade deadline as well. Talk going to be coming on Wednesday as well. Reminder everybody that we will be doing a watch party on Wednesday for that game against the Washington Capitals, and then doing our live episode right after that. So, but yeah, so we're going to take a quick break here and listen to our good friends from DraftKings and Raycon. And on the other side, we will talk some Ducks news. And there was a massive trade with the Ducks. I don't know if you heard about it. Absolutely massive.
Huge.
We'll yeah, we'll go over the big DE of the week and get to know Annie a little bit more, as well as do some upcoming game prediction on the other side. We will see you in just a second here. NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hand with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 and win $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game. And if it doesn't hit, you'll get a free bet back. So, what are you waiting for? Download the app now and sign up with the code THPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in free bets instantly. Again, that's code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void in Ohio. See show notes for details. This time of year, everyone's talking about making big changes, which is all well and good, but most of the time, pretty unrealistic. You've probably found that the smallest changes to your routine can actually make the biggest impact. In the same way, you don't have to break the bank to make a big deal purchase. Even the smallest things can be part of a big change if it's something you use every day. Just like Raycon earbuds. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can build great habits without breaking the bank. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with a battery that will last all night at your next party, Raycon's got you covered. And yep, Raycon start at half the price of other premium audio brands. That means you don't have to choose between products. You can get one of each, or a pair and a spare, and still pay less than you would with some of the other guys. Even if you know you'll love your Raycons, Raycon wants to make sure you feel great about your purchase. They offer buy now, pay later options, and every purchase has an easy and free return guarantee. Ready to buy something small with a big impact? Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your Raycon order. Again, that's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/THPN. So as we come out of this break, tweet from Pierre LeBrun just a few minutes ago, still pending the official trade call, but hearing that the New Jersey Devils have acquired Timo Meier from the San Jose Sharks, and details are still incoming. I guess those t-shirts worked for Devils fans, hey? Give me fuel, give me fire, give me Timo fucking Meier.
Wait,
those were great shirts. I loved seeing those. Oh.
I mean, it's a good thing. Not to know, with all due respect to Johnny Gaudreau, but if they get Gaudreau last offseason, they don't go for Timo Meier. So
nope. And Gaudreau is going to the playoffs instead of fighting for to play with Connor Bedard next season. So
this is
not
true.
Trying to be a salty Calgary fan, I fully respected his decision and wish people wouldn't have booed him during his return game to Calgary, but that's just me. So
I need the return though. Oh, I want the return.
Yeah, hopefully we get it by the end of the episode. But
We
I
gotta
mean,
keep
I
up.
guess when this comes out, everyone's gonna be like, "Yeah, that happened yesterday." Remember, we're recording this on Sunday, people.
Yeah, that's always fun to watch podcasts, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, this already happened. Like
yeah, exactly.
idiots, they don't know.
Oh, all right. So, quick injury update here for the Anaheim Ducks. Adam Henrique was listed on the injured reserve list on Thursday prior to the game against Washington. He is out with a lower body injury per Lisa Dillman. We're not sure when Henrique might return at the moment. And Justin Kirkland was loaned to the San Diego Gulls on Thursday. He was involved in a car crash back in early January. Was released from the hospital. I think it was later that night, and has just been on the IR ever since. So I'm assuming this is a conditioning stint, unless I've missed something else. But yeah, nothing else otherwise on the injury front, which is not is not a bad thing, I guess, for the Ducks. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries this year, so and hopefully they don't have to deal with too many more, especially coming up to the trade deadline here. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so speaking of trades, like I said, the Ducks made a massive, just bombshell trade acquiring Josiah Slavin. I hope it's it, or Josiah Slavin. Josiah Slavin. I even tried to double check this the other day. In exchange for Hunter Drew. So just a AHL contract swap, basically. Slavin will report to the San Diego Gulls. This season, he's put up 11 points in 51 games, and over his AHL career, 3 years in Rockford, 115 games played, he's put up 24 goals and 50 points in the NHL. He got to play in 15 games with the Colorado Blackhawks. Geez, Chicago Blackhawks. I'm getting those two teams mixed up today too for some reason.
See,
Put
similar
up,
letters.
yeah, exactly. Put up 1 assist there in those 15 games. And that's all he's played in the NHL so far. So just a depth move by Pat Verbeek, but at the moment, at least, this is kind of what we're used to. Besides, it's depth moves and getting rid of the upcoming UFAs. That's what we've gotten used to for the first little bit here of Pat Verbeek. So
Yep.
I don't know if there is anything that you can make out from this trade, but what do you make out from it?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is a change of scenery for both AHL players. Just nice little contract swap there. I've watched some goals games this year. I'll admit I have not paid too much attention to Hunter Drew and his development personally, but I don't know much. I think when everyone saw the last name Slavin come across their screen, they're thinking thinking the one in Carolina, and
Yeah.
not quite. But
Nope, not quite.
I'll have to pay a little bit more attention now to our AHL, the AHL trades a little bit more. But nah, I don't have much thoughts on it aside from that.
That's fair. I don't think a whole lot of people did, to be honest with you here. So
Or with the Blackhawks, honestly, AHL system, I don't pay
yeah.
all that much attention.
All I know is that they had, I guess they've kind of updated it, made it a bit more modern, but they had, in my opinion, one of the greatest minor league logos with the ice hog there. So, but anyway, normally this is a Carter segment, but because he's not here, I get to hijack the segment. And so for our big D energy move of the week, I think last night kind of solidified what it was going to be. And just in case you missed it over the last couple of days, somehow, we had a goalie goal in the NHL. Linus Ullmark of the Boston Bruins scored against the Vancouver Canucks. Boston was up 2-1 with late in the third period. Vancouver pulled the goalie, and Linus Ullmark definitely took his shot, to say the least. So we can pull it up here. We'll risk getting the demonetization, but I don't think it affects us right now anyway with our followers. So yeah, under a minute left. There's a feed there that just gets mishandled at the blue line by the Canucks, and Linus Ullmark has all night and day to fire that puck down, almost hitting the opposite circles before that puck goes square into the middle of the net. And there was the question right away in one of the group chats that I'm in was, has there been a season where a goalie has both scored a goal as well as won the Vezina Trophy in the same season? And the idea that came across was maybe Martin Brodeur in the 90s. but that wasn't the case. So Linus Ullmark might be a first here for this, scoring both a goal and winning a Vezina in the same season. So what was your initial reaction here on the Ullmark goal when you saw the highlight?
I'm gonna expose myself here because my toxic trait my toxic trait here might have been everyone was freaking out about it. And my first thought was it was an empty net goal. Like, okay. That don't impress me much. Okay. I can score an empty net goal. Actually, probably not, depending on how far out I am. But when you watch the clip and you see it actually like launch and it went over, guy, you're like, all right, that's cool. That's impressive. And the fact that it was a close game, and it was like we're not talking like a 5-1 like we're not talking like not 5-1. They wouldn't have pulled the goalie if it was 5-1, but like we're not talking like a 2-goal game, like where they're trying to get something going. Like it was a 2-1 game, like basically solidified it down. Like it's cool, but like my first initial reaction was like, why are we freaking out over an empty net goal here? Which, you know, I granted, you know, maybe I'm just not easily impressed by some things, but that was once I watched the highlight, I'm like, all right, that's cool.
My first reaction was seeing the score first and it being 2-1. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of risky from Ullmark. Because normally you see guys trying that when they got a 2-goal lead and the goalie's pulled at the other end. But then you watch the clip and you see that Ullmark, just has so much space and time to work with that he's able to just corral the puck, set it down nicely, pick his spot, and let it fly, basically. Definitely makes sense. So don't worry. So everybody will get their little taste of Carter here as, Linus Ullmark being the first goalie to score a goal since January of 2020 is
a big energy move.
Probably being the first goalie to score a goal and win a Vezina in the same season is
a big energy move.
And also to do it in Vancouver, just to get Boston even more rent-free in Vancouver Canucks fans' heads on Hockey Night in Canada is
a big energy move.
Fantastic editing. Oh my goodness.
That was one of the few episodes that like Carter and I, like we've kind of like arranged it that we don't normally do it just on our own. That was the one episode. I forget what I had going on that he did it on his own. He came up with that. I started like dying laughing when I had heard it, and I'm like, okay, like we gotta do something with that, basically. So this is what it became. It became Carter's own segment on Monday episodes. So
there you go.
But and as well, if you want to rep the Big D energy yourself, you can also find t-shirts, and I think we have stickers for that as well on our merch store, tqrshop.myspreadshop.com. All right, so the person I've been talking to for the last hour and 20 minutes is Miss Annie O'Donnell. So I'd just like to talk to you a little bit, just get to know you a little bit more, and if nobody's really as familiar with you, just kind of get some of your background or that. So let's start just from the very beginning, I guess. How did you become a Ducks and a hockey fan? I know you said, your dad's a big sports fan. I'm assuming it's from there, but how did you get into this sport and this team in particular?
It is. My dad grew up a huge hockey fan, living on Long Island, excuse me. Caught myself there. But during the time of the original six, so the Islanders weren't a team when everyone kind of asked that when they say he's from Long Island, but grew up a huge Montreal Canadiens fan, and met my mom. Always, I'm sorry, we skipped a couple of steps there, but played hockey throughout youth. Was a goaltender. Played a bit at Notre Dame where he went to college. Then joined the military, and then met my mom. They got married, and they moved out to California. And when my dad left the military, he hadn't played hockey for a good number of years. So when he had retired, he picked it up again, played men's league. And this was before. I take that back. But no, in summary, I'm kind of going into too much detail here. But my dad grew up a huge hockey fan, and I'm from a family of 5 children, 4 brothers and me. And all of us were put on skates at the ripe age of when we could walk. So I've grown up in and out of rinks. I use the phrase, being from California, I've spent more time in ice rinks than at the beach, which is very factually true. I've been in every single ice rink in Southern California. That's where I would So that's where we would spend our time on the weekends, having brothers that all played travel hockey. And then just became a fan of the Ducks. I mean, they were the team that was the closest for me. Obviously, as a kid, I do have to give credit to the Mighty Ducks movies. I would watch D2 The Mighty Ducks on repeat. And the fact that, the actual team, that, came to be because of these movies was just less than an hour north. That was the team. And, it was especially during the 90s when the gear was fresh and we had everything in the house. That's all I knew. That, and of course, my dad being a Habs fan, there's pictures of me in Canadians gear as well. But definitely have always been a Ducks fan. And they, I shouldn't say since I was born, because I think I'm 10 months older than the Ducks. So they came October 93 and I was born December 92. So I can't say for life, technically, but as long as I've been cognizant of the sport of hockey, I've been a Ducks fan. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's talk about just your general, like just kind of your journey to where you are now in the area of media. You've done so many different things. You've, had your own podcast, OD on Sports, which you started that show with with like a couple different topics, but like, it included like a conversation on gatekeepers in the hockey community. And as a Canadian, I love this, the firing of Don Cherry and his comments, which like I remember like where we are, that was a wild thing, and that's still such a divisive thing as a whole there. But that's like the first episode of that. You're just like you're around like the 50,000 followers on TikTok.
Getting there, so close.
Yeah, just like you have awesome like skits there and just commentary on hockey as a whole and whatnot. An original member of the Later Rivals podcast, who we're friends with those guys there, and like Chris and those guys.
Love those boys.
And Chris was even on our episode 200 show a little bit ago there, so it would have been the end of last season, I guess. And just before the All-Star game even appeared on the Jeff Merrick show on Sportsnet radio and TV, which for myself personally, that was the #1 show on my Spotify Wrapped podcasts for the years. So just like even you tweeting like, oh hey, like go check out me on the Jeff Merrick show, I'm like, I am all over that. Yes, let's go. So
I appreciate it.
even though it wasn't Jeff Merrick specifically, you get like Matt Marchese is fantastic when he has to fill in for Jeff there. It's just the people and the conversations that they have on that show was incredible. And your hit on there as well was great, talking about the All-Star game, which I'm sure you and I could even have like a whole hour-long episode talking about the All-Star game. So, but like that's kind of like a few different parts that I was able to pull from it. Like kind of what has your journey been throughout media to where you are today, and what are you doing today? I guess you can kind of fill in the gaps there a little bit.
It's been a journey, to say the least. It's been a lot of figuring out what I want to do and what I like amidst, of course, my life and things happening. So I knew I wanted to work in sports. Always knew that. Just being a sports fan, it's the thing that brings me the most joy. It's the thing that helps me establish relationships and connect with people the easiest. So studied sports in college. I studied sports marketing because to me, it always felt like the media dream just felt like too much of a long shot, because I don't know. I didn't want to study journalism specifically. I don't know. I think because when I was in college, it was probably like, it was more like like writing, and I didn't want to do that. So I knew I didn't want, I don't enjoy writing specifically. So I was like, didn't want to do that. So I just kind of, I think I just did marketing because it seemed like the safe option. Like, oh, I'll go work for an organization. Like, that's great. And then I did internships and things like that. And I realized I didn't want to I didn't want to do marketing. I didn't want to do sales. I didn't want to do like kind of operations there. So trying to find a job, shockingly enough, I took a sales job outside of sports when I graduated school. And I have no regrets. I got to live in Chicago. I got to live in New York, which I think living in New York was easily, the reason why I did launch the way I did. But it just wasn't what I wanted to do. And I ended up, in a situation in New York that really impacted everything, like mental health wise, where it just made me realize that like living day to day, hating your job and hating what you do is just not worth it. It's life is too short to do something you don't love and like to pursue your dreams. I remember being so jealous of people that were doing something they love, that were able to wake up every day and get excited to go to work. Because to me, like I was dreading it. I was wishing I wasn't going to wake up in the morning because I just didn't want to go to work. And it felt like this dark cloud, even though like I was trying to do outreach, I was trying to do avenues. I was like, okay, maybe I'll go try to work for an organization again. And it just didn't happen that way. And things just doors closing. And I was just like, what's the message here? Like, I know what I want to do. Like, why isn't God letting me have this? And then come to find out I was let go from the sales job that I was working, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not even blessing in disguise. It was a blessing. Like it was freedom in that sense, because that job was destroying me. And I toyed around with the idea of starting a podcast because at that time, I mean, like Barstool obviously still has their podcast. But I remember seeing those blow up. And I remember listening to some of them and saying, like, I could do this. Like, this sounds like conversations I have, like, all the time. Honestly, some of them better, to be frank. And at that time, I remember just being so terrified, like, just scared. I was like, oh, my God, people are going to listen. Like, I'm not good enough. And that's still something I have to, kind of deal with a lot. And I think as you put your ideas and thoughts out into the internet where everybody can comment on them, it's still really scary. But I think it came to a point in time where I was just so fed up and like things were just not happening for me. Like I had nothing to lose at that point. I was just like, why not? And at that point, literally it was, and you bring up the topics I had, and I remember kind of getting started. I posted a rant on Instagram, excuse me. And I still have them up on my Instagram page just to remind me how I started and where I came from. Was just how like I hate gatekeeping sports fans. It's just such an unredeeming quality. And I remember recording like a minute rant about that. And I was just like, I can do this. Like I can do this. And then the Don Cherry thing happened. And I think I'm trying to remember her name, and I feel bad because there was another topic on that episode, and she made the comment about hockey families. And me.
Wasn't it that lady from The View?
Yes. It wasn't.
I remember us talking about that. Yeah, I remember us talking about that too. Yeah,
and it was that week too, and I was like, why not? Let's just get something out there. And I had this grungy ass like $15 microphone from Amazon in my apartment that I lived with 4 other girls at the time. And I just recorded it. I was like, and then put it out into the universe. I was editing on Audacity, which I can't even edit anymore because it's not compatible with my software. It was so dated. But it was one of those things where I kind of felt like, I could have waited till I was like ready. I could have waited for all this, and I didn't. I was just like, nah, like I'm just going to launch and see what happens. And then from there, like started to just kind of kept putting out weekly episodes and was just meeting people and growing within the community and like being able to connect with people. And then of course, COVID hits and I'm like, okay, gotta rethink here. And I had kind of gotten back on Twitter a little bit, but not really. I was big into Ducks Twitter, like when I was in high school and like college, like that was a whole thing. But Twitter can sometimes like just suck your day and suck your energy if you're on it too much. So which is why I really try to limit my time there. So wasn't too much on Twitter at that time, but I got on TikTok. And I was like, okay, I was kind of scrolling through for fun, like most people did in COVID and in quarantine. But I said, well, why don't I try making sports videos and see what happens? And it's a good mix. At first, it was a mix of baseball, but then I started getting in more hockey specifics. And from there, it was just more, I kind of toyed around with it because with my platform, I really wanted it to be something really fun because I think sports should be fun at the end of the day, but also somewhere where I can put my ideas out there and talk about how I'm feeling and rant about things if I want to. I didn't want it to be specifically one thing. Like I wanted to showcase everything that I love and everything that I think I contribute to this space. And it's really resonated with a lot of people, which is the coolest thing. And then from there, like things have transferred over from Instagram and, to Twitter by just, putting my ideas out there and putting out, whether it's like funny memes, like on Twitter, I try not to. And that's the thing, like I kind of think back to a lot is, I feel like a lot of people, it's kind of, how do I phrase this? I saw a video. I did when I think I retweeted on my timeline where it's, you know, remember who your audience is. Like, remember who you're talking to. Don't make content for the check marks, the Twitter elites, like the other people, because you can definitely tell when you're scrolling on your timeline, like who's posting for the fans, who's posting for just like people that are on Twitter to just kind of relax after the end of the day and interact with other fans, and who's posting for the analysts, the check marks, as they say. And it really kind of brings me back and like, remember, like, hey, remember who your audience is, remember who you want to attract, and whose attention you care the most about. And for me, it's always about the sports fans. Like, that's how I always want to be remembered. That's how I want to be known, as just somebody, and especially women, that the best compliment I ever get is when, you know, either young girls or women say that they feel more comfortable with their love and embracing their love of sports because they've seen my content they can relate to me. And that to me is just the absolute best thing that I can hope for. And if that's my legacy, I will be thrilled. But it's been a journey. It's been a long process. It's still the podcast. I'm still working on getting back to the podcast. I came back and then took a hiatus once my brother's battling cancer. So once that happened, I kind of took a step back, but working my way back as we speak. So it's been, I've got high hopes for 2023, but it's definitely an avenue that I'm still figuring out who I am and what I want to do and what, I don't know. It's been a fun journey, kind of figuring out my place in this sports media world.
That's awesome. Yeah, I loved seeing your stuff, you know, like come across my TikTok on my For You page and that sort of thing. And especially, you know, like once we started to have like the interactions on Twitter, I'm just like, oh, hey, it's Annie and that kind of thing. And yeah, just loving everything that you put out. And yeah, I checked out a few episodes of the podcast and that sort of thing. And yeah, we definitely need more like on the gatekeeper kind of thing. We just need more women in the sport, I think, just to openly express their love of hockey and not have those gatekeepers who, you know, are just saying like, oh, you're just in it because the guy's cute or something like that. Like, no, there are a lot of people like yourself and so many others, you know, like that listen to our show as well. Like, shout out to like Allie and Lauren. We're constantly in the chat talking about, you know, like what they think the Ducks should do and stuff like that. Like, just the sport just as a whole needs more girls, like more women, just less gatekeeping overall. Right. So where like whether it comes from just who you are or monetary or like anything like that. So like you said, sports should be fun, and hockey especially is such a fun and wild sport as well when you think about it. Like, you're like, gatekeepers are gatekeeping a sport where people put knives on the bottom of their shoes and glide on frozen water, hitting a rubber disc into a net with a stick. Like, when you break it down that way, it's like you're gatekeeping that. Come on.
Yeah, it's you know, and even like, I don't know, some people get really, really crazy about it, and I'm like, listen, you have to think that a lot of people like come to certain sports at different points in their life. Like, not everybody was born into a hockey family. Not everybody was born to parents that love sports. A lot of them, like, there's a lot of adults that, you know, are either intimidated or say, hey, I just never grew up with it. Or, hey, I'm not from a city where there's a team, so I just never really was exposed to it. It wasn't on TV. And you're going to tell a grown adult that they can't like a certain team because they didn't do X, Y, and Z. Like, it just,
yeah, exactly.
Did they not realize how silly that sounds? You know, especially as adults, where like life is hard enough as it is, and especially pre-pandemic, where we're kind of learning how hard life is and still coming out of that. Well, I shouldn't, post-pandemic, excuse me. I realize I said pre-pandemic there, but aren't we being more open and accepting to people finding new ways to find joy and find an escape from reality? Like, not necessarily that sports should be an escape from, you know, obviously, like, I think sports is a reflection of society, you know, as a current whole, and I think they should be, you know, in tune with what's going on in the world, of course. But I just, people need to be more open and welcoming, but it's just such a tribalistic culture sometimes. I think especially within some of the original 6 teams or some of the teams that are good as of recently. Like, of course, you know, if a team is good, if a team is competitive, if a team's going to the Stanley Cup final year in and year out, of course they're going to attract some new fans. Or of course you're going to attract some faces that say, hey, like this team's really good. Maybe I'll go. Like, you think about it and people are like, oh, throw around the fair weather. They throw around the bandwagon phrase. And you're like, listen, like that, it is what it is. Like, people don't want to go and watch a bad team play. Like, they're not, like, people aren't going to want to waste their time, waste their money unless they're a diehard sports fan. And that's okay. Like, everyone can do what they want with their time and their money. Like, we're not God here. Like, you can't, there's no specific set of rules. There's none of that. Like, it's just that's how you grow a fan base too. Like, you think about it, and I remember I replied to this TikTok where it was like Trevor Zegras is wasted in Anaheim, and like, to begin, they mispronounced. They were like, "Here's why Trevor Zegras is wasted in Anaheim." I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go." I already know this is going to be good. Please enlighten me. And the entire time, it was just like ragging on the fan base, and I'm like, listen. The fact of the matter is, and you brought up earlier in the show how, you know, Trevor Zegras, the league is thrilled with Trevor Zegras, you know, to grow the game. I think they have to be even more thrilled that he's in a market like Anaheim. He's in a market that needs a superstar, that needs to grow more. Like, that's what the league is trying to do here. Trevor will do more to grow the game in a market like Anaheim than he would in New York, than in a Toronto, than in somewhere where hockey is religion and those fan bases are established. So, and you know, you think about it, you got more fans, more people are coming to see this kid play. I mean, it was night and day I was at the home game before they went on that road trip where he and Sonny did the alley-oop, and the home game after. I swear, more seats filled, more people wanting to come see this kid that went viral. Like, that's how it works. And once the team starts getting good again, there's going to be more seats filled. It's just, people get so annoyed about the dumbest things. And it's like, don't you want to worry about yourself here? Like, even the attitude about, which I know is going to be a hot take for a lot of hockey fans, but like, even the attitude about like wearing, like what you wear to games, like, what know what jerseys you're wearing. Oh, that team's not playing. Like, yeah, I'm gonna scratch if you're like, I was at the Pens Ducks game a couple weeks back where there were notably more Penguins fans, but there's a couple in Nashville Predators jerseys. I'm like, okay, like, little odd, but that's, hey, you paid for your ticket, you're not wearing anything. I mean, Ducks fans may think it's offensive personally, but you know, if you're not wearing anything rude, offensive, like, wear what you want. I don't care. Like, I'm not paying it. What you are wearing, what you're doing is not impacting my viewership here. Like, it just, people need to worry more about themselves. And that's basically it at the end of the day. Like, if somebody else's fandom, how they came to be a fan is impacting you somehow, like, that's a you problem in my experience. So that's, and it's even more so about women. Like, obviously the Ducks have like young guys, and yeah, they're gonna bring some teenage girls into the mix. And you know what? However you came to be, however you come to the team or to the sport, you are welcome. All right. If you're positive, if you're rooting for the team to win, if you're not creating a hostile environment, you are welcome. That's the way I look at it. And it's not an impact. People are like, oh, they make female hockey fans look bad. No, they don't. No, they don't.
No.
They make them look bad to you. To you, they look bad. But
yeah,
not
exactly.
for the rest of us. The fact that you're letting that kind of that judgment cloud, it's not anybody else. There's plenty of other women that are knowledgeable and great hockey fans. And who's to say they aren't just because of how they came to be a fan. So that's my
exactly. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, like, even if, you know, it is a way of like, oh, like we were talking about the like teenage girls and some of the guys are younger and whatnot, you know, like that might not necessarily be the only reason that they're there for very long, right? Like, you would start to get invested in the team. You start to, you know, look at just even like basic stats or something like that. You get into the history of a club and you just kind of like become invested in it, right? It's like sports, and I find there's a lot of overlap between sports and music, right? It's like it's hearing that one song that you then go into that album of that band, and then you check out more albums, and then you check out like their influences, and you kind of branch out that way and that sort of thing. So like sports and hockey, especially with the history that the NHL has, is the exact same way, right?
Right. It's true though. Like I think there was a TikTok, I think. Someone said like, oh, if you came to know like this band, I didn't watch Stranger Things, but someone's like, if you only knew this band from Stranger Things, like you're not real. I'm like, people were like, yo, people are listing like all the ways they became a fan of their favorite bands. Like for me,
Yeah.
I started to love classic rock because of School of Rock and Guitar Hero. Like that's how I was exposed to that kind of music. So I was like,
exactly.
I remember watching School of Rock. I'm like, no, I love this. Like, okay. And that's how I started listening to that music. I came to know Aerosmith, and Aerosmith is one of my favorite bands because Steven Tyler was on an episode of Lizzie McGuire when I was a kid.
I forgot about that. Holy crap. That just unlocked a memory there. Jesus
he was
Christ.
Santa Claus with his kid
yeah, right.
on this episode of Lizzie McGuire. And that's how I was like, Aerosmith. Okay. And then I went to Disney World soon after that. I was like 10 years old. But I went on the Rock and Roller Coaster, which was Aerosmith themed. I'm like, oh hell yeah! Like I'm in. Count me in for this. So like everybody has their own way of coming to certain things. Like it's so funny how people try to like gatekeep it and it's like no path is linear. Kind of like certain careers in media. No path is linear either. Like not everybody does the traditional, which of course now, I mean, what? Like 10 years ago, the path would be like, hey, you go to a 4-year school, you go work at TV stations, you work your way up, and then maybe you get a shot, hosting a show, doing something. But nowadays, like you can host your own show, you can create your own path and career. And I think that's an amazing thing. Because you speak of gatekeeping, there's a whole other section when it comes to working in sports, and you don't have this degree, you don't have this career, you didn't go to this kind of school. And nowadays it's like you see people that dropped out of school, you see people that didn't go to college absolutely thriving in this space. So that's not to rag on anybody that did go to college. I mean, I did, but it's not a barrier to entry, which it's honestly it shouldn't be, to be honest, but I know it still is in some careers. But as far as working in media, as far as like creating your own platform, like you don't need one, which I love.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like for myself personally, I think if I'm not mistaken, like not trying to do like revisionist history or anything like that, but like the original show that Carter and I did with a friend of ours, I think I was the one who came up with the idea of like doing a podcast specifically about it because I loved Steve Dangle, who also did not have a traditional path to what he's doing now with Sportsnet and whatever, right? So which I think I quoted his book for a school paper that I did like in college. So
I love that though. That's another guy like where Steve Dangle, I think he's so popular because fans absolutely relate to him. And like you obviously I've been on Jesse's show a couple times. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're listening to his show and it's just like, it's so relatable. It's not, it's obviously not 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman, but you don't listen to Steve Dangle for him to be Elliot Friedman. You listen because, it's relatable as a sports fan. And you're like, yo, this guy's funny. This is like overhearing you talking with your friends. Like it's, I absolutely, and it's just, I love Steve because he's just so authentic and just so does authentically himself. And that's how he's so popular. And I think he's the best. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out a quick buddy of mine here, Audie James. He's the host of Game Over Calgary on the SDPN there. So
I follow him on Twitter. Okay. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So we were friends for a little bit before that because the pandemic is when I really started to use Twitter. And there's a lot of people in Flames Twitter, especially now that like I've met up with multiple times in person and just like have their phone numbers. We'll talk to them just kind of every day. Like those have become my friends. And so anyway, I'd come across, like SDPN was starting that Game Over Calgary thing. And I would have loved to do it myself. Don't get me wrong, just school classes. I was taking, I think like 2 or 3 night classes at the time kind of thing. I'm just like, well, night classes doesn't exactly work with a hockey schedule. So I passed it on to Audie actually. And so he got the interviews and everything like that. And there was the one day that he sent me a text and it was just a picture and he's just like, look who I'm talking to right now. And it was Steve, Adam, and Andrew Berkshire. And I'm just like, I am jealous of you right now kind of thing. So, and he's like, I've been on Game Over Calgary now twice and we're going to be scheduled for next we're scheduled for next month as well when Calgary and Anaheim play.
Nice.
But the first time that I went on that show was kind of like a last second thing. He's just like, hey, a guest fell out kind of thing. Would you want to come on tonight? I was just like, yeah, sure. So like that was even like a step for me of like, holy crap, I'm on SDPN and stuff like that. So like it's like you're kind of talking about just the non-traditional means, right? So of
Right.
like even for myself, like THPN and that sort of thing, and like that, like just the experience of talking on a show like this got me the PA job that I have working for a local junior team this year. So and just had a bunch of fun with it. So
it's, and you kind of bring up, I know you brought up the Jeff Merrick show a couple times, back when you're talking about me, and like I think back, Matt Marchese and I have been connected for, it'll be 3 years this year, and the reason why he kind of picked up on me was I was live tweeting a Ravens Browns game, and he wanted to bring me on to talk about the Ravens. I'm like, bring me up. He was hosting the Fan 590, which I think he still does every now and then. But my first radio appearance was the Fan. And I was like, I remember freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh. And of course it was football that I was talking about. And I remember messaging him saying like, hey, like, I really love hockey. Like would love to, if there ever an opportunity, would love that. He's like, oh, hell yeah, we'll do that. And, Matt has been absolutely wonderful for me and helping me get that radio experience and getting to talk about the things that I love on a radio level. And it's so true though, that, it's just getting out there and like creating content, because that was my first radio appearance, but my first radio gig I got because I posted a TikTok rant about, I think it was it was a Dodgers fan group putting up a billboard in Boston saying, thanks for Mookie Betts. And I posted a rant about it, and it came across this guy's For You page, and he said, hey, I have a radio show in Orange County. I need a co-host. Would you be interested? I'm like, okay, like I'll give it a try. So got to go up there and did that for about a year. And it's not even like a viral video or anything. It's just probably got like 4,000 views on it. So, but it's just one of those things where like I tell people all the time, like, don't worry about numbers. Don't worry about virality. Like, I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they create stuff with the intention of going viral. And majority of the time, like if you do that, like, yeah, you might get a lot of views, but you don't create that community. You don't establish those connections. Whereas if you make content that you want to see, if you make content that you think reflects you and is, genuine to who you are and how you think, like you never know whose feed, whose For You page it's going to come across. Like, you just don't know. So, worry less about numbers and worry more about, just be yourself and put yourself out there in the most genuine way possible. Cause you never know when it could happen or how it could happen. So.
Yeah. And kind of like what we were talking about as well, just nothing is really done as much the traditional way anymore, right? Just the different avenues. Take your own approach, find your own approach. Something will get figured out along the way there. All right. I got a few kind of just questions here for you that are just kind of like thoughts on kind of different things or whatnot. So the first one I have here, what is the best sporting memory that you have? I'm not going to limit it. I'm not going to limit it to hockey, but if you obviously, if you want to do a hockey one, by all means.
Sporting memory. Is it like something I've been to, or?
Take it as you want. Been to, something that you did.
Let's see.
If you want to give both answers, by all means.
I mean, the Ducks winning the cup is up there in 2007 for sure. The comeback on Catella. I was living in Chicago and I absolutely lost my mind in this bar watching it. I blacked out at that point. I was like, I was, if it wasn't such a big bar, I would have bought everybody shots. And my friends were like, no. You can't afford that. No.
Having a good time.
I lost it. But the one that I went to, I would have to say I was in Chicago at the time. The Dodgers, it was 2017, and that 2017 Dodgers team was stacked. So I had a feeling that this was going to be the year. Like, they were going to get it done that year. And in 2016, it was the NLCS that the Dodgers got eliminated by the Cubs, who went on to win the World Series. And I was in Chicago for that too. And it was miserable because, of course, the Cubs fans were losing their minds. And I was like, I hate all of you. But for 2017, I was living 100 feet from Wrigley Field at the time, and the Dodgers and the Cubs were playing in the NLCS again. And it was Game 5. And something just told me they were going to get it done that night. So I took money that I did not have, and I scalped a ticket and sat behind a few rows behind the Dodgers dugout, and got to watch the Dodgers win Game 5 and win the NLCS for the first time in my lifetime. And that was another one. I didn't black out like actually, but like no, I blacked out like mentally. I didn't black out because of alcohol.
Yeah.
But it was so cool. It was just, it's one of those things where I'm always like, if you do, and I went by myself too. I didn't need anybody else to go with me. So I always say, like, don't miss out on opportunities just because you don't have anyone to go with. And I guess that can translate also to like content and things like that. Like, don't wait for somebody else to tell you to start. Don't wait for somebody to want to do something with you. Like, if you want to make content, make content. If you want to do something, go do it. And I've always been in that mentality too. Maybe when I was younger, I was always like, oh, I need like approval to do something. But nowadays I'm like, I'm going to do what I want. Like, I'll go buy a ticket. I'm very comfortable sitting at a sporting event by myself. I'm not going to miss out on an opportunity just because, I don't have anyone to sit with me. Like, I'm going to be watching the game the entire time anyway. So
Yeah.
But yeah, those would be my top 2 for sure.
Nice. Okay. So I know you're kind of like me in the sense that you do like to collect some jerseys and some retro. Yeah, some exactly. You also go a lot more into like the retro like sport clothing than I do, but some of the jackets and whatnot that you got that I'm just like, man, I wish like that one in particular, like I noticed that right away. I was like, damn, that is good. So okay, what would be your favorite jersey in your collection? Well, so we'll go both Ducks jersey and just any other jersey that you have.
Okay. There's a lot of special ones. There's like special stories attached to each. Like,
and if you want to share the story too, go for it.
Okay. They're quick. There's nothing long. I mean, the reverse retro from this year is cool because it got sent to me, and like that was a goal I had in mind, especially like the first round of reverse retros when I saw that, media and like creators were getting sent jerseys, and the fact that I got sent one was like so cool to me, and I was like, wow, I've made it. So this was back when it was a third jersey, was the current home jersey, was their quote third jersey. And I saved up so much money to buy one for myself. So that was kind of a special moment for me. But I think my favorite one, it's probably this year. And I missed out on the 25th anniversary jersey because I bought it for my brother for his birthday. And I was like, at that time, I was just like trying to save money. I was living in New York, and I'm like, okay, like I can't afford to like get it for myself now. And it's the one Ducks jersey I didn't have. And then on my birthday this year, my 2 youngest brothers, who aren't making a ton of money by any means, they chipped in and got me a Getzlaff signed 25th anniversary jersey. So that one is very special to me, just for that reason. So I think that one's got to be a top. Plus, it's a beautiful jersey, and it's like authentic too, and it's got the strap and everything. So I think I'm gonna go with that one for a Ducks jersey. And then, the one that's not Ducks. I mean, I want to say the goat head. I love the Buffalo Sabres goat head. I have so much goat head stuff. It's absurd. Anyone who follows me knows that. But I honestly think, and I hate that it's trumped it, but I have the Capitals reverse retro jersey from this year, and it's beautiful.
Very jealous. Very jealous.
So I think that might have to take the top spot. And I have not been able to get my hands on the current Sabres third jersey, the new goat head, because it's been sold out in my size ever since. So I will get one. I have not lost hope on that. I have plenty of gear because I was in Buffalo just before they released those jerseys. So they had like the shirts, the hats, everything, but the actual jersey. So I got stuff with it. But no, I got to go with the Caps one. It's an OV jersey, so it'll be classic, but it's just beautiful. Oh my gosh. I opened it on Christmas morning, and like I literally like was taken aback at how beautiful this jersey is.
Yeah, that was I got 3. Yeah, I set aside money for 3 reverse retro jerseys this year just because I was catching wind of like what a lot of teams were doing beforehand.
Yeah.
Well,
it's so easy on Twitter too.
Yeah. Well, and I was getting it even further in advance because I contribute a little bit with aesthetics a little bit, and I'm kind of in with some of those connections.
Yeah.
And just
Look
other
at
places as
you.
well.
Look
But
at you.
it's perfect for a guy like me here. So yeah, Calgary and Anaheim, I was like, yeah, I got to get those no matter what. And for the 32 collection, I think I have 8 teams left, and
Ooh.
but I didn't have Edmonton yet.
Okay.
I didn't want to get that orange jersey that they've been wearing the last few years. That was honestly one of the ugliest jerseys I think to come out of the Adidas era. Like just as soon as it was unveiled, I'm like, there's so much wrong with this. But it was then so I was like, okay, well, I'll get like the Navy alternate jersey. And that was then it was like, okay, well, the Royal jerseys are coming back. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Like those are really nice jerseys. Yeah, I'm good with that. But then I caught wind that the reverse retro was going to be the oil drop. And I was like, yeah, as long as it's not a white version, because I have rules on it that it has to be like a colored jersey to add, like to be officially a part of the collection, I guess.
Okay. That makes sense.
I was like, if as long as it's like a dark based jersey, I'm 100% grabbing it. And I have a friend that's working within Rogers Place in Edmonton, so she was also able to get it for me at a crazy discount as well. Shout out
That's
to
always
Kaylee
nice.
for that. So
That's always
yeah,
nice.
so those were the 3 reverse retros that I got. But if I could have had the money for a 4th one, absolutely would have been Washington. And honestly, it should have been because I missed out on the first reverse retro for Washington as well. Which
So
like
did I.
they've nailed both of those out of the park. It's been so good.
So did I. I was so mad, but I honestly worth the wait because the black ones, I like the black one better.
Oh yeah, they're good. They are good. So, all right, let's move on to the retro clothing or that.
Okay.
Let's go favorite jacket that you have, and same thing, both Ducks one and just any other one that you have.
Favorite Ducks one would have to be. Oh, I've got a lot. If we're talking just jackets here, so I don't have to do shirts. That's great.
We can go into shirts as well if you want, or does that make it harder?
That's all right. We'll make it easy on me. I had this one pullover, like the classic quarter zip starter jacket as a kid. And somehow we lost it. It got, whether it was my mom, donated it or something, which broke my heart. I found an adult version of it a little while back, and I bought it immediately.
Nice.
Which wearing it brings back a lot of memories for me. I love this one. It's just got the little detailing there. Mm-hmm. I do wish it's pretty simple. So if I want more of like a simple look, it's easy to throw on things. Let's see. So that's probably my favorite Ducks one. I do. So, I'm going to get in trouble for this one. But I call a non one. Oh, this is tough. I got this Islanders one I have is really cool. I love the Sabres one that I have too. But I think my favorite would have to be the Senators jacket that I have. And it's just I saw it online on this one reseller site, and it just had the coolest. It's got the logo on the side here. I'm going to go get it. I just got to show it off.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's see it. And I guess while Annie's grabbing that, if if you want to see some of the stuff that, we're looking at, such as like the Allmark goal or Annie's jackets here, be sure to catch us on our YouTube channel as well at Quack Report Pod.
So it's got these sleeves.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing this one now. Yeah.
Show off.
That is awesome. That is
just
awesome.
On both sides, just really great condition. Like, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
The good old Centurion. Yeah.
Exactly. And then another, I might get in trouble for owning this, but I don't care. We had plans to go up to San Jose because my brother's a huge Sharks fan. And I was like, well, I'm not going to, okay, if we're going to be doing something. I didn't own any Sharks reverse retro, any kind of retro gear, but I saw this and I'm like,
oh yeah,
oh, that's cool. And then it has just it's all nylon, so I didn't own anything like it, so I'm like, all right, cool.
That's really it it's kind it. I don't know. Maybe it's just the view that I was getting, but it kind of looks like a Letterman jacket a little bit.
Yeah, it's got that style. Yeah. So
That's
I
awesome.
can't bring myself to buy any Kings retro stuff just yet. I might. I'm not. I always said like I'm not opposed to like enemy stuff when it comes to like my retro style jerseys. I'm a little hesitant about unless I really like the player. But when it comes to jackets, I'm like, if it's a cool design, I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna buy it. So
Yeah, that Oilers reverse retro kind of hurt just to buy something Oilers for myself. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? Like the original jersey, especially, was one that I loved as a
yeah,
kid. And I did a concept that was very similar to what that jersey turned into, actually, like in the start of the pandemic there. So I was like, oh, okay, so that's kind of something I design, like not me
yeah.
directly, obviously, but I was just like, okay, there's some cool elements there.
Yeah.
So,
I
and
love your
as well
jersey. I
to
love
go
your
into the
jersey
32.
designs, by the way. I
Oh,
think
thank you very much.
some of my favorite content I see is all your like mock designs for like potential Ducks third jerseys or revivals. So I meant to give props to you to that early on, but since you brought it up, I was like, oh yeah.
I was very pleased that just off of like the leaked logos from the t-shirts that got put out, that the Ducks one, I was able to like nail everything that they did with this year's jersey. I was very pleased with myself.
There you go.
So
There
I
you
was,
go.
because I think we were even talking about it on the show before they were officially unveiled. And I was like, the one thing though I always get wrong is the collar. And when I saw like I got the collar right, I'm like, yes, let's go.
Success.
Yeah, exactly. I shared in a group chat. I was like, oh, here's like another new concept or whatever. Like I haven't posted in a bit. And I think somebody was just like, oh, sweet. Like, like I think I'd said something along the lines of like, I got some stockpile that I want to post or whatever. Um, and it came around to like, yeah, no, I haven't posted nearly like it's been like a small fraction of what I've actually done. And I pulled up like the individual file that has all of the jersey designs that I've done. And it's about
Wow.
300 gigabytes worth of concepts and Photoshop files. And I'm like, maybe 5% of these have actually made their way out there. So otherwise,
Right.
they've been kept close to the chest. Either I just haven't gotten to them yet, or they're ones that I'm just like, I'll keep that around just for an idea later, but it doesn't quite work the way I was hoping it to be. But all right. I got a couple more here for you.
All right.
Favorite non-Mighty Duck hockey movie?
Miracle.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I
I
have
still
a
love
quote.
watching that one.
I have a quote tattooed on my body, so I guess I gotta say
Which one is it?
Miracle.
Which one is it?
Legs feed the wolf.
Yes. Legs feed the wolf, gentlemen.
Yep.
I think I know the answer to this now. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but favorite Mighty Duck movie?
D2.
Yeah.
Easily.
Damn
The
good
ranking
one.
goes D2, Mighty Ducks, D3, and no other order is accepted.
I forget. Was it? I think it was one of the TSN like bar down quizzes or that they were talking about the fact that Paul Correa's in the third one,
Yes, they are. Yeah, he
and
is.
they're just like, okay, what real life circumstance would Paul Correa just show up in the middle of the Anaheim Mighty Ducks season and just commentate on a high school exhibition game of all things?
Listen,
They just like went down the realistic hole, and I was laughing at it.
you can't be realistic in those cases. Come on.
No.
Come on. You gotta roll. In what case would in D2 when they have all you have Christy Yamaguchi, you had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar all at the same party around the junior Goodwill games? You're like,
you got Coach Bombay. I forget who he was talking to specifically. It was a basketball player, but he's like marketing the idea of like coaching loafers.
It was
Yeah.
Kareem, I thought.
Was it him? Okay.
Might have been. I don't know.
Oh, but yeah, it's like for was it for coaches who want to, or for kids who want to coach or something like that?
Yeah, the loafer.
Yeah, and they also just like completely gloss over the fact that Wayne Gretzky is cheering for an American team when Canada is in the Goodwill games.
Yeah.
Well.
He shows up in the locker room, say hi.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, all right.
Great one. Wayne's fine.
Yeah. All right. Favorite all-time Duck.
Corey Perry.
There you go. And
it's a tie between him and Paul, but gotta be Corey.
And all-time just favorite hockey player.
Oh, that's tough. Dominik Hasek.
Ooh, yep. Can't go wrong with the Dominator.
Perry's up there too. But gotta be Dom.
And specifically in Buffalo wearing the goat head, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Jeez. The order. I've defended him time and time. It's just when people come to talking about goaltenders, specifically when you're talking about ranking Hasek, Waugh, and Brodeur, that is the correct order. And I will not accept any order otherwise. Like once and I guess that's just one thing. And that's one of the funniest things about sports is like, to me, you look at the stats, you look at the numbers, it's plain as day. Like, and especially the stats and the numbers, because let me just say it loud and clear. Wins are not a goalie stat. Thank you very much. So no planet should Marty Brodeur be above Waugh and Hasek. Just not all. That's all he has. That's all he has is the wins. That's the only stat he has on. Well, he's got cups on Hasek, but another team stat there.
Yeah.
But it's just I when I get down to like defending players like that, it's just it gets me going. But it's funny when you like look at numbers and you're like, this is plain as day. Like, how do you not understand this? Like, what's going on here? And then you get, especially on social media, you get people chiming in with their takes and things like that. And that's the fun part, is everybody has different, not skill set. Everyone has different criteria for how they rank or how they evaluate certain players, whether you're a fan, whether you're an analyst, whether you're whatever. And it's funny, even though sometimes you're thinking to yourself, you're like, you're an idiot. Like, this is, how could you possibly think this way? But that's the beauty. People look at my opinion and think I'm an idiot too. And I'm like, I know, that's fine. I'll sleep just fine at night. So.
Yeah, I know the one take that I had for the longest time that everyone was like, are you sure about that one? Was the Pittsburgh Penguins made a mistake not keeping Marc-Andre Fleury in the original expansion draft. I was like, they're gonna regret that one. So
listen, my other little rant I have about that situation, it's a quick one. I lived in Pittsburgh in 2011 through 2015. I went to college in Pittsburgh. Those 4 years, Marc-Andre Fleury was not very liked in that town. And I mean, he was ridiculed to no end by that fan base. And the fact that they turn around and when it's time to expose him in the draft there, and he gets picked up and they're acting like, oh God, Marc-Andre, like they're just so heartbroken over this. And then he makes the cup final and they're like, what happens in Vegas came from Pittsburgh. Piss off. Literally piss off. One, this has nothing to do with you. Two, like, you guys, I've heard countless smack talked about this guy. Like, get out of my face with that. No, you don't get to do that. No, you do not. So
no. Yeah, no,
you also think back to that 2003 draft, and he was taken first.
Mm-hmm.
First amidst that entire class. You got to think back, and you're like, would you do it again?
I feel like you'd almost have to.
I feel like Pittsburgh would.
Yeah.
Especially given the 2009 Cup, too, and the role he played. He played in that run. But you look at the talent there. I mean, if you're just reorging off just plain talent in general, I think he gets moved down. But if you're asking Pittsburgh if they make that pick again, I think they do. Yeah,
that last save that he made against the Red Wings in 2009 there, like, that was what solidified him as my favorite goalie growing up.
The jump across. Yeah, I know exactly the save you're talking about.
To the fact now that, like, I have I got for like each NHL team. And like I kind of made it work as well within like that 32 collection, but like I have that 2009, like one of the few white jerseys that I bought for the collection. I have that Pittsburgh era appropriate jersey hanging up here. You can see Minnesota just in the corner there.
I saw the 29. I was like, is that Flower?
Yeah, Chicago and Vegas are in the closet there. So and yeah, even my girlfriend, like I was like when we were like just starting to get to know each other and starting to date, like Fleury's in Vegas doing all he was doing and that kind of thing. And I'm showing her clips and, she's just being a nice girl because she likes me and that kind of thing, and has just accepted that this is what it's going to be if she
Right.
dates me, and we've been together now for almost 5 years. And
Aw.
I still do the exact same thing, but now she's a little bit more upfront of like, okay, no, I'm not in the mood to watch hockey highlights right at this second. It's like, send it to me and I'll watch it in a bit.
You're like, babe, look at the save though.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at
But
this.
so like I'd be like showing her like a couple of Marc Andre things, and then she would come out to my lacrosse games where I also play goalie, and she's like, I can just see that that's your favorite goalie because you like have the same mannerisms as him.
Did you thank the posts? Did you
Yeah.
talk to your posts too?
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
It's funny. I was a lacrosse goalie in high school too. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. So field lacrosse though, I imagine.
Yeah.
As is the more popular in the States. Yeah, I was box lacrosse. I didn't play field until it's my second or third year of university.
Okay.
We had a team, and I tried out. I started as an attackman actually, because I'm like, this is my way to get out of the crease and just like kind of have some fun. And then I moved to midfield, and I went, why did my coach move to midfield? I can't run to save my life. At least very well, we'll put it that way. And I'm
Right.
also weirdly horrible at defense, coming from a goalie. But it eventually got to the point that we went through the amount of like reserve guys that we had in net that it did get down to me. And so like I played a few games in net. My first one was like I didn't even get a warm up or a practice or anything. It was literally just I got thrown right into it and had to figure it out for myself. So but yeah, that was the only season that that I got because our team had to fold unfortunately the year after. But so, but yeah, no, I've dabbled in the field lacrosse, but box lacrosse, because you're kind of near San Diego, are you not?
I'm just north of San Diego. Yes.
So have you been to any Seals games?
Of course.
As a Roughnecks fan, I hate the San Diego Seals, but
Fair
they
enough.
are just such a fun team to watch. And that's before, Dane Dobie and Curtis Dixon left Calgary to go there. But yeah, there's a fun team, and they utilize purple really well.
Very much.
Like, purple needs to be seen in sports more.
That's a hot take. That is.
I like my purple. I like my
That's
purple.
fair. It's probably it's funny. That's my least favorite color.
Really?
But I mean, I'm a Lakers fan and I'm a Ravens fan, so there's purple in both of those. So it's just not my favorite color to wear on my person. But in sports, I agree.
Okay, I got one more because we do talk about like movies, TV, and music, especially Carter and I. Our first degree was a music degree, and that's how we became friends, is playing in bands. Your top 5, no particular order, top 5 favorite bands, artists.
This is hard. Okay.
Doesn't have to be an all time. It can just be like what you're listening to right now, or if you want to try an all time, go for it.
I don't change my artists. I've listened to the same people for the last
fair enough.
Last 15 years. Def Leppard's up there. Big Billy Joel fan.
Nice.
Let's see. I'll throw Fleetwood Mac up there too. Aerosmith. I could throw in another rock band in there, but I feel like I have to. The band that I've seen, which is ironic considering I'm not the biggest country fan, but the band I've seen live the most, and the band that my stage name is based off of, is Zac Brown Band. So I would have to put them up there. They have a song called Sweet Annie, so that's how I came up with Sweet Annie OD. But yeah, I think I'm comfortable with that top 5.
That's pretty solid top 5.
I'd put Queen up there too, but I feel like that's in everybody's, so I'll switch it up a little bit.
Queen's a band that I wrote an entire like final paper on, actually, for one of my classes. We were doing, it was a seminar that covered, no pun intended, like the history of the cover song. And like how it had its origins in the origin of rock and roll and that kind of thing, with like Elvis and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and stuff like that. And what I did for that paper was, because that was right around the time that the movie Bohemian Rhapsody came out, and so there were a couple covers that were put out as part of the marketing I think Shawn Mendes did one of the covers. 5 Seconds of Summer did another one. And so I took those songs and I did like an analysis comparing them to the originals. And that's what I did for a final paper. So
I love that.
yeah.
I have my favorite cover of all time, and it's probably actually it's not true because I love Whiskey in the Jar by Metallica. That's a great one. But
Yeah.
my favorite, and that's another guy that probably should have been in my top 5. Big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. I love his Superstition cover.
Yeah.
And I think I acknowledge that Hendrix is the best guitarist of all time, but my favorite is Stevie Ray. Like, I just love hearing him, and just more of like a blues sound, which I like.
Mhm.
But it's so hard to pick a top 5 because I feel like it changes, like just depending on what I'm listening to the most. But it's just, I don't know, there's something about that entire era of just pure I can't even put it into words, but it's hard. People are like, oh, let's listen to some newer stuff. There's some other bands out there. I'm like, no. Why would I do that?
Yeah, let me listen to what I want to, and if I decide that I want to try the new stuff, let me try the new stuff then.
Exactly. Like this guy tried to get me to listen to the Lumineers. I'm like, and all I can hear from the Lumineers is that Ho Hey song.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. He's like, they have other stuff that's good, I promise. So he sent me an album. I'm like, okay, this is good. I admit this is good. He was like, see? But to me, I was like, not the Ho Hey band. I'm not doing that. Yeah. He's like, that's not fair. I like Mumford and Sons too. They're a good one. Yeah. As far as like I'm more modern, I guess, but I like what I like. So I've always been a big fan of like anything that I can listen to in a dive bar. That's probably what I'm gonna gravitate the most towards. I mean, my dog's name's Jet, named after Joan Jett. So
I got to see her. So where Carter and I are from in Medicine Hat is like, I don't even know how to describe. Have you watched Letterkenny by chance or seen any of the clips from that show? No. Okay.
No.
That's just like the easiest reference, I guess, to make, but it's city of about maybe 70,000 people, but it's like it's about an hour from Montana, just to kind of give you an idea of
wow.
Kind of similar in that sense. And so anyway, we have like the Stampede, like the rodeo every year there. And one of the country artists like that was headlining kind of like the couple day festival that happened in line with it had fallen out. And to replace the country artist, they got Joan Jett. I'm like, okay, wait a second. First of all, Joan Jett is coming to Medicine Hat. And second of all, Joan Jett is filling in for a usually country festival. All right, I need tickets to this. So
like, hell yeah.
Yeah. So it was my stepdad's friend had an extra ticket actually because someone had to back out. So I got to go watch Joan Jett, that was amazing. I love that.
That's so cool. I thought it's funny. I wanted to name her. I'm a big Stevie Nicks fan too. I wanted to name her Stevie, but I already knew 2 dogs named Stevie. And I mean, God forbid when I start naming my children, because if like I hear a name that's too common, I'm like, I don't want that. No. And my dog's black, as like all black. She got this white spot, and I was trying to think of her name, and I was toying around with a couple of them. But then I get on the treadmill, and I Hate Myself for Loving You comes on, and I'm like, Jet. I was like, oh hell yeah. I texted my brother. I was like, how about Jet? And he's like, I love it. Let's do it. I was like,
that's awesome.
That's how she came to be.
I love that. Okay, last question, and then we'll do a quick upcoming gaming prediction for everybody else. Any advice that you have for girls or that wanting to get into sports media and media in general? I know you've kind of dropped some nuggets here and there, but give us like, the piece of advice that you would give.
The piece, I'd say, I know I've said a couple like tidbits where it's like, hey, make the content you want to see, what else have I said? It's just like, just start. I'd say for the women, for anybody that wants to get into any kind of media, like own your space, be confident, have that. You have a big dick energy section on this show. And I think there is something so just powerful about having that confidence in this space. Whereas I think about it a lot because, something that a lot of women and maybe, sports fans in general, you're faced with a lot of, quizzing and a lot of like, oh, prove your fandom kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I really don't face that a lot because I own my space. I act like, and I know you're worthy, know that you deserve to be here, and have that confidence to come in and just own who you are, because that's what's going to differentiate you from everybody else. And this is a wide space. It's still a very like new, because as social media is changing, as platforms are changing, there's going to be more avenues, but there's a lot of people trying to do what we're doing here, and not, how are you going to differentiate yourself? Kind of like you guys. There's a few Ducks podcasts out there, but you guys make it different. You guys have your own spin. You guys have your own setup that the other guys don't. Like, find a way to make yourself stand out in that sense. But like, have that confidence to just know that you belong here, but also like be very open to learning, be very open to other ideas, because I know you talk to other sports fans that are so set in their ways and you're like, okay, like this is pointless. Like, you go on certain shows or talk to certain people that are just not interested in hearing your point of view or entertaining anything that besides theirs. And I know I joked about hearing, other people talking about like rankings and things like that, but like, you got to be open to other ideas. And I guess the last one would be comfortable being wrong. And I say that in the sense of, of course we want to be right, but are we ever always right? No. Like, we're going to make predictions in a couple of bit. The chances of us being wrong on a couple of them, very high, and as we come into the season of like playoff brackets, like none of us are fortune tellers. Like, you're going to be wrong, but be comfortable with it. Be okay with it, and hold the L when you need to. It's, it's okay to get predictions wrong. It's okay to get player evals wrong. And that's how you learn. You talk it up, you joke about it. Like we talked about earlier in the show, where I was like, hey, I was wrong about Seattle this year. Completely wrong. And that some people, and that's why a lot of people are really scared to start or put their stuff out there, because they're afraid of being wrong and they're afraid of not getting something right. I'm like, listen, you look at all the other analysts out there, all the heads that are talking on ESPN, TSN, Sportsnet, and TNT, like, they're wrong all the time. So be comfortable with it. And don't victory lap on the win so hard, because you're going to be wrong again. So I guess I don't know if that's the best piece of advice to end on, but I think it's important because I do not fear being wrong at all. And I get roasted for it time and time again, especially on TikTok, but it is what it is.
I love that. I know I definitely take the victory lap a little farther sometimes, especially when it comes to our upcoming score predictions here. I have gotten 4 scores right this entire year.
Okay.
I don't think that necessarily includes what team got it, but just the actual score in the game.
Okay.
So yeah, okay. So let's get into that here. So as we said, upcoming games here, we'll go through this game at a time. We'll get your predictions as well here. We'll add them in here.
All right.
So upcoming games here, we have Chicago on Monday night. So Chicago is not doing too well, kind of like the Anaheim Ducks right now. And this is going to be a battle for 31st spot in the NHL, as the Chicago Blackhawks are 30th right now. And we will be playing them at home, as we are now done our road trip. The Chicago Blackhawks road record this season, 9-16-2, but they're 6-3-1 in their last 10 games and are currently on a 5-game winning streak. We'll start with you, Annie. What's your score prediction for this game?
The Hawks tend to play well at Honda Center too. So I always take that into account, even though it's just PTSD from the past, I think, in that sense, even though this is a very different Chicago team. And I think back to last game where, hey, there were moments where Chicago should have won that game, and it was just the Ducks that came out victorious in overtime. If Gibby's playing the way he's playing, and you've got some Ducks that are looking to try to show off for potential suitors at the deadline, I'm going to go with, we'll go 4-2 Ducks.
4-2 Ducks. All right.
Yeah. With Gibby facing over 50 shots. Okay. Yeah. He'll face like 41.
There you go. Yeah. I'm gonna, oh man, just like the Ducks are on this kind of high right now, but brought up, just how Chicago plays at Honda Center, and also just the way that they're playing right now is just, I mean, on the backs of, Patrick Kane and Max Domi currently, but I think until they're gone, one or both of them are gone on Friday, they might do some, we'll call it damage to the Blackhawks' chances at the Bedard sweepstakes here. So I'm going to go with a Chicago win, but I'm going to keep it close. I'm going to say it's going to be let's go with a 3-2 game, I think.
Okay.
For Chicago.
Another 3-2 game. All right.
Yeah. I'll just put that in here really quickly. All right, and then we move on to the Washington Capitals on Wednesday. This is a team that's just prior to the game that Anaheim just played them on Thursday. I think they've kind of decided that they're going to be a bit more of a seller, as there's a lot of good teams around them that are trying to get into that last spots, and they just kind of figure we're not going to really get very far. So, and they've gotten Ovi and Backstrom their cup kind of things. So it's okay. Let's try to restock and just get ready for next year, and hopefully have a better chance. They're 3-7-0 in their last 10 games. On the road though, they're fairly even, 14-14-3 on the season there. So what do you think the score is going to be there on Wednesday night against Washington?
I'm going to go. I think the gas runs out here. Honestly, I think the win streak stops here. So I'm going to go with a. We'll go 4-1. 4-1 loss.
All right. And, I do kind of feel that too, honestly, like the factor in that game was John Gibson. If John Gibson doesn't play the way that he was, that's definitely a Washington Capitals win. I think any other night. I'm going to close that gap a little bit there. I'm going to go 4-2 for Washington in that game, I think.
And now that I think about it, my guess is that Dallas is going to put Lukasz in net tomorrow. So I might change my Blackhawks prediction there. I mean, why wouldn't he? Gibby just played 2 games.
Yeah.
You don't want against Washington. You probably want to put Gibson in. Might as well give Lukasz a shot. And then you could also put him in on Friday.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless Stolarz comes back. When's he due back?
I think he's just he's just IR right now. I don't think there's necessarily a timeline that's come out that I've come across yet, at least.
Well, that ruins the deadline there. So maybe I change. What did I have for the Blackhawks?
4-2 Anaheim.
Oof, I think I'm gonna have to change that.
Right.
We'll go 2-1 Blackhawks. Maybe 3-1 with an empty net goal, but we'll go 2-1.
2-1. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got 3-2. You got 2-1. So we're both thinking 1-goal games there against the Blackhawks.
Okay.
In the fight for the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. So
I hope Karma is ready to bite the Blackhawks in the ass and not grant them another generational talent.
I 100% agree on that one there. So, all right. Well, I think that's where we'll wrap up the show. Annie, if you want to, whatever you want to plug, whatever you're up to, any social medias, any social media platform handles that you want to give out, the floor is yours.
All right. You can follow me on any social media platform, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Sweet Annie OD. I'm posting daily on those platforms. At least one of them is daily. So love talking sports with anybody and whatever fan. If you're a Ducks fan, if you're just a hockey fan, love connecting with people. And podcast will be coming back soon. Depends on a couple things as far as scheduling goes for me. But that's OD on Sports. You can listen to old episodes until I come back. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Perfect. All right. And we'll still shout out Carter as well, I guess. Because
he's
might have to. Might have to, I guess. If you want to bug him as to why it wasn't the 3 of us on today's episode rather than than just 2, you can tweet at him at Carter_Potts, POTTS_97 on Twitter. And yeah, if you want to tweet just whatever at me, I guess. I don't know if you still want to say that my take about John Klingberg moving to the wing is a bad one. You might not be wrong, but you can also tweet that at me at Tateonomus on Twitter, TATOMAS. Reminder that we are doing the watch party on the THP and YouTube channel on Wednesday against the Caps. Thanks all for listening. Go Ducks, go.